What's the big idea?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Okay. Welcome to episode number 20 of VOLLEYBALLOGY.
Whoa.
My name is Zuby.
My name's Eric.
Hi, my name is Shane.
Oh, wait a minute. Eric?
What? I
You
asked
put
you
both.
to check.
Eric has two cameras on himself.
Oh.
Oh, I see.
You gotta do it again.
Jeez, this is
I
becoming.
asked you to check.
If anybody out there
Well, I
is
could
looking
have told
for
you
a,
that because I was looking at both
Yeah.
of them, so I can see both of them.
yeah,
from there.
if anybody out there is looking for a tech guy, or sorry, if anybody out there,
you
is,
have a camera and
if
this
any-
thing in front of you. That's
if any tech people are looking for work,
there's two
we
on me.
need now.
If I had the screen, I would verify.
Anyway, maybe we could just show our guest. We have a guest today for our 20th episode, and here he is. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there he is. Oh, you want to zoom in on him a bit, Eric?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just here. Eric, Shane, just sit still. Shane, sit still. Now zoom out a little bit. That's good.
Can I
Hi,
move?
Shane. Yeah, you can say hi. We're looking
Oh,
at you.
Hey, guys.
This is Shane Christopher. Shane is a volleyball legend in our area. He is a player, high-level player, beach indoor. Went into coaching, and there he has stayed and has been rotting ever since. Oh, and by the way, so let's do our intros again. Let's do it. Hi, everybody. My name is Zuby.
I'm Eric.
Oh, now you made you're camera 3 now. You're supposed to be camera 2.
Oh man.
Doesn't matter. It's okay. I'll fix it. And you say your name now.
Hey, I'm Shane.
Hey. All right. Yeah. So Shane, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, this is a treat for us to have somebody else here to talk with. Nobody wants to come talk with us usually, but Shane owed us money though. So.
Yep.
I had no choice.
Yeah. No choice. Shane, high-level beach player, high-level indoor player, coached club, coached college ball here in Canada, and for a couple different schools, assistant coach, head coach, coach of the year in
2013.
2013. And yeah, so we're happy to have him here on this episode. We're going to be talking about recruiting advice for parents and sort of, just some things that they can maybe tricks and tips or cautionary tales.
Do my best.
So Shane, why don't you tell us all about you?
All about me. Let's put me on the spot, sure.
No.
Volleyball player, coach for the last, over half of my life, I guess.
Yep.
Started coaching in 1998 in Grand Prairie, Alberta with Grand Prairie Regional College.
Oh, what? I didn't know you were from out there. You're from?
Well, I went to school out there.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
just about to correct myself.
Yeah, if we want to talk about where I'm from, that's a whole another episode, I think. But
Shane was born in a Turkish prison.
Add that to the questions.
Where were you born?
I was born in Ontario.
You were born in Ontario?
I was.
Oh, I thought you were born on the East Coast.
No, I moved to the East Coast 6 months old,
Oh, okay.
and then then there for several years, and then out west.
Dang.
So
Cool.
lots of travel
Yeah.
in Canada, anyway. So started my coaching career in Alberta. One of those tales of not making the men's team at the time, the varsity team, and being asked to start assistant coach with the women's team, and then been coaching ever since, really. So started coaching in 1998, and still going.
Nice. Yeah. And I guess maybe a good thing to ask would be, so you coached club, right?
Correct.
And then you went into coaching post-secondary. Do you want to maybe tell everybody why you decided to go back into coaching club?
I think as a lot of coaches, when you're coaching when you're young, suddenly life takes a turn and you have a family. And I was lucky enough that my daughter showed some interest in wanting to play. And I figured, well, if I'm going to be there anyway, I may as well go out on the court and try and add to her experience.
Right.
It's one of those things, though, trying to manage being dad and being a coach. We work very hard. My daughter and I work very hard at maintaining two separate relationships.
Yeah.
When we leave the gym, we don't talk volleyball.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So what's that like? So when does that stop? When does the transition? Like, is it as soon as the game's done, or is it on the car ride home kind of thing?
We don't talk volleyball in the car ride home. If we do, I'm asking her, I'm talking to her as her dad, telling her how proud of her I am and how much I love watching her play, and that's the extent.
Nice.
There's no correction. There's no discussions about anything related to her play.
That's nice. And so you would throw the clipboard down and scream at her inside the gym.
Her and I have had 2 altercations.
Okay, physical.
No physical. No physical. Those are illegal.
And your daughter's how old?
She's 12.
12. Okay.
She's 12.
So you've had 2 altercations. Let's hear about them. This is what people want this.
They do. My daughter's very competitive. She doesn't like to lose.
Isn't she she plays like lacrosse as well? Or?
She plays lacrosse as well. Yeah.
So she can beat you up if she has a stick.
100% she could.
Yeah.
100% she could. She, just 2 altercations, and they would be the same with any athlete, right? Just poor attitude on the court or coming off.
This is about you?
No, I wish it was me. It would be easier to deal with it.
So once you got subbed out, you mean?
No, because we're not allowed to sub at that age.
Oh, right. So poor attitude at the end of a game.
End of a game, losing a set, losing a match, just not handling it well. And then just trying to taking a moment as her coach to say, hey, we got to refocus. And if you want to be a leader moving forward, then we have to approach this the right way, kind of thing. So
nice. And the second one? Same thing?
Same thing, right?
Yep.
I've noticed with her, she's very hard on herself. So the second time she'd missed a couple serves, we'd lost by a couple points. Again, it was only a set. We didn't lose the match. And during the conversation, what's up? What's with the tears? What's with the bad body language, that kind of stuff? And her response was, well, I didn't do well. I made our team lose. And it's like, hang on, let's refocus, right? Same conversation I would have with any athlete about, let's focus on what you've done well. Let's not worry about 1 or 2. Right? The game's not won in 1 point or 2 points. You don't have to be perfect. So
yeah. Perspective is funny. It's a thing I think across society where everybody sort of overemphasizes every moment. Parents do, coaches do, and players too, and they don't understand the long process involved, right?
See, I think you just hit the nail on the head with the word process. That's what, for me as a coach, I would love to go back to the college level and coach again, because I think I'm a better coach now.
100% you.
Cool.
The process. We literally say the word process probably 15, 20, 30 times in our practices.
Yep.
We don't focus on end results. If we win, great. If we lose, that's fine. How did we do along the process?
So is it you wish you could go back to college almost because you have more involvement in the process? Because in club you may have the athlete for a year, 2 years tops, and then they're gone or something, right? Whereas in college you can actually build something, right? Is that part of the reason?
I think so. And I think my thinking and the way I approach coaching has changed.
Cool.
Big time. I think I was, and again, college level, it's competitive. You're there to win.
Yeah.
Right? Schools are spending a lot of money. There's kids on scholarship. You're doing the recruiting. You're putting a lot of time in, right? 4 to 6 days a week, depending on your match schedule. So the end result is to try and win, right? But then you also have to get to that end result, you have to focus on a process. You literally cannot have the end result without a process. You can't. So expecting kids to come in, even ones you've recruited, to come in and to pass really well every time, to attack really well every time. Well, what are we as coaches doing to give them the skills to do that, right? And a lot of it, especially in the women's game, I think, is the mindset and the mentality and giving them the ability to stay confident, right? So,
yeah, like anything in life, I find like no matter what it is, whether it's sports, business, even this, what we're doing right now, a podcast, right? It's all about process, sticking with it.
For sure.
And and I always tell people too, like 90% of it is not quitting, right? Like that's a huge filter, right? And a lot of people quit because they have the wrong mindset and they're so impatient. And I always tell people, like, if you focus on a big faraway goal, sometimes that decreases your patience with failure, right? Because you're like, oh, no, I'll never get there. And every point is value rather than what's in front of you right now, or what's in front of you this next point.
Right now.
And volleyball is tailor-made for that, right? Like volleyball is tailor-made for like, okay, next point, versus, the people who think about the last few mess ups, they're going to mess up the next 5 or 6 points, right? Or
Every time.
Yeah, every time. That's what it is. It's the ability to shake things off. I think the sport is so set up well for people to get that, but you know, it's hard to find the coaches that have that mentality. So that's cool that you.
I was just going to say, I don't think we coach that way.
No. And you know what's cool that you said too is that, like, you know, it'd be a shame if you went through your career and didn't change, right? That's the other thing too.
So.
Because I look back at myself as a young coach, way less patient.
Oh.
You know, it was my ego attached to the result. You know, you have to show people that you're better than this, so you get angry at the team at the right time, and that's part of. And then later on, you realize, wait a minute, what the hell was I doing? Like, that's just ego and insecurity. And then you look around at coaches, you know, your age or older, who still haven't grown out of that stage, and you're like, what are you doing?
It's all about that end result, and it's completely ego driven. I agree.
100%, yeah. Insecurity driven, right?
Insecurity. Yep.
Okay, so so Shane, so we talked. So you went into coaching pretty young age.
Mm-hmm.
You did play a lot of beach, and you played a lot. Like, I met you as a player.
Correct.
And
Curtis Secondary.
Curtis Secondary School. Just sort of pickup nights. Shane tells a funny story. Shane thinks that I gave him attitude because I didn't know him.
For sure he did.
And the custodian.
We heard it from other guys.
And Rick.
The custodian gave you.
Rick did.
Rick gave. Yeah.
Rick were setting up the nets. Excuse us. Can we help you?
Well, we were working security. We didn't know who you were.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Meech invited you.
Meech
right?
invited
yeah,
me.
Of
course.
We used to do
No
this.
way.
Actually, you might have been. We used to scrimmage against you guys.
Yeah.
Those were good
We
nights.
used to play. Yeah, those were fun. Playing
Yeah.
against the
Those were
high
fun.
school guys. Yeah, it was good for our egos. We used to.
Oh, we still had some game. Could still move and jump.
This is
And
back in the 1800s. So that, and then you. How did you? What was your first? How did you get into coaching after you came out here and were playing beach and indoor with us?
again, there was an adult league at Kingsway College, and I forget.
Right.
Yeah,
I remember you had me come out and play on that. A few
Yes.
times, yeah.
and I don't know. For the life of me, if I had to remember how I got hooked up with that league, I couldn't tell you. But I started playing with Larry
Yes.
and Marg Pearson,
Mm-hmm.
and I played a couple times, and then I got a call from Larry saying, "Hey, are you interested in coaching?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" Right? Like,
You already done it for a few years, right?
I'd done it for 2 years at Grand Prairie, right? I was like, "Yeah, sure," and hooked me up with Durham Attack Volleyball Club
Mm-hmm.
at the time. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's start." Again, like I was 19
Mm-hmm.
coaching.
What?
Yeah,
Holy.
coaching a 16-year-old team and an 18U team at the time with some of the coaches, older coaches from there, right?
Right.
Yeah, so just coached with them for a few years, and then got lucky enough to meet Stan Marchett and move over to the college level.
True. And how long were you in club world before you went into college?
Gosh, that's a good question. Maybe 5 years.
5, yeah.
I think so.
Do you find it fast? I found it like, it's almost like there's such a need for people who know the sport that when you get into coaching, you get moved up fast. If you're a player who has a good,
If you-
mindset.
Yeah, if you have some knowledge, especially, there's a lot, and I think it's warranted for most. Not to offend anybody, but I think it's warranted for most. If you have played or if you have some background in volleyball, and you're eager to coach and do it the right way, you can be, the best coach in a club very quickly,
Yeah.
or involved with
Regional teams,
Regional
state teams,
teams.
provincial teams.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Especially
I think so
now,
too.
right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't even know if it's now because I think even back then, 100% now for sure.
That's
because-
right. But back then, it's still the same thing would have applied. Like,
Yeah, it was still
You
back
still
then
would've
super
gone on as
fast
a coach,
because
yeah.
I did 1 year of club coaching, and then by the end of that year, they asked me to coach a provincial team. I was
Right.
like, wow, and the regional team, you know what I mean? It was like,
program.
what the heck? I was like, it
Right.
was just because there was nobody there, right?
but
Yeah.
you admit that you weren't ready or capable of doing the job properly, right?
I admit that I admit nothing. No,
You know what though? Like I know, and you're probably the same, and you're probably the same, Eric, too. Is like you can look back and go, I'm definitely a better coach now. Like experience is huge in coaching,
Mhm.
but at the time, like I remember, I did like we talked about, right? We were at the regional program the same time in
Mhm.
Barrie years ago.
Mhm.
I think at the time, I think we did a good job.
Yep.
For the caliber and where the game was, right?
I think so too. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
if you go back,
You'll be hard on yourself for it, but you
Yeah.
probably still got a lot of good to the players, right?
I think so. Like
Yeah.
if we went there now, if you could transport from here now who you are back then, you'd be the best coach in the team.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, we almost. I mean, we were pretty good coaching just because we came out of playing and went right into coaching. So you had that, we knew where it was going. We knew what things had to be like. We knew positioning really well because you had to be there as a player. And this is what we always say about coaching is that it's really hard to teach the right level at club level if you've never played above it. So, because you might be teaching bad positioning, those are the coaches that end up teaching like, okay, we'll teach bad system because that's how we'll win at this level. And then those players will go up to the next level and they won't make a team because they're ill prepared for that. So we did coach because we were still playing at that time. I remember it's kind of funny because that's where, like you and I, we were beach partners. We were. But Shane wanted to coach a lot more. And I was like, at the end of that year, I was like, I'm going to coach when I'm unable to play.
I remember that conversation.
That was that conversation. I said, like, I can coach, when I'm fat, like now. But I got to play, for as long as possible. So that's when sort of I did start in Vado. I started the other private coaching stuff, but yeah, that was sort of the time. And then you went big and hard time into coach. You probably didn't even go as big time as you could have, right? Like you probably could have, you had a family and other things came up in your life that you didn't want to go in like full force, but you probably could have gone,
I think so.
Like national team style. Like I know young coaches who went to the national team programs pretty early and pretty fast.
And it was, years ago it was pretty open too. Like all you had to do, I did one clinic in Sherbrooke. We took our 15U team again years ago, and Julian Bouchard was holding the clinic there. I just emailed him. I said, "Can I assist?"
Cool.
100% you can. Come on out.
Yeah, interesting.
Right? Next thing you know, you're in Canada gear and you got a bunch of 15-year-olds in the gym.
Well,
but it was that simple, right? I don't think it's that easy anymore. But
no, yeah. It's luckily it's not that easy. The only thing today I find holding back like national programs, a lot of them, is that until they commit to paying for it, they like it's shocking in a lot of countries. If you look, some of the best national team players are not in the systems, and the countries that get it bring them in. Like in the US, they've started bringing in the former national team players, and look at the results they're having now, right?
Correct.
Versus in countries like Canada, where you don't see a lot of great national team players coming into the coaching ranks much. I mean, it's happening now. Last couple of years, I mean, Hogue was a great one, but I know on the beach side, there's an absence of beach legends coaching in Canadian beach.
I think an indoor guy is doing Beach Canada now. Again, like he's actually, I don't know. I don't know how he is as a coach, but I just found that out this past summer. Which I thought was
that's what I'm saying.
Different.
Like, I think nations got to do a better job of getting their top players. The problem with it though is you got to pay for it. Like I know for a fact I've talked with some players who are offered like almost nothing to work with the national program as a coach, and until they commit to that, it's the results. Because I think the idea is right now, and I've seen this sort of on provincial and state levels, where they want to keep it like a manual and low pay, so they can just plug in the next coach. Because if it becomes too technical or too specialized, that gets expensive, and then that person becomes irreplaceable.
Right.
And then, but if you just put up, here's the salary, you'll get good people fighting over that job. Versus what it is now, we're like, we'll take anybody. Like we talked about, we'll take anybody. Like to be, a state, the head coach in a state or a province sometimes is like, they'll take anybody who's willing to take take this salary. And then you get people going in it for the wrong reasons. They go in it for the ego, or they go in it for the title, right? The prestige, which, I get to, I understand that. But if you're going to have quality and sustain quality, I think you put up a nice high number, and then you attract and pick from the best of the best. And that's sort of missing. But
I think volleyball's huge in Canada too. I mean, we have the hockey, and now that we're in the lacrosse world, lacrosse is really big as well. But I think volleyball's underrated for the amount of kids that are playing. Yeah,
and it's like even in the States and Canada, I think there's no. Yeah,
Trinity Western has like been, whenever they do the, Canada versus U.S. stuff. I mean, Trinity Western. I mean, that was during their 8-year domination, basically.
Yeah.
8 or 9, 7 or 8, something like that. But they would usually beat like the top American teams a few times, like Long Island and stuff. But it is a huge volleyball country, absolutely, and we're seeing the sport explode, right? And like it's big. It's it felt small like when we were playing, but now it's getting to the point where it's pretty crazy. It's everywhere. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, and I think there's a real lack of not anybody's fault, but like I think there's so many kids playing, and there's nowhere to go after. Like there's a real market, or they're burning themselves out. Kind of what we're going to talk about today, because they're fighting all over themselves trying to get to certain levels. Yep. But I think there's a real like think about it, like the kids that go play varsity, post-secondary, college, university, and then from there the kids that go pro. Think of the millions of kids that stop playing after their club years are over. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like there's a real thing there missing, eh? And that's where, I mean, there's community organizations like ours and other ones that run leagues and stuff. But man, in those university towns, imagine if I don't even know, do kids even want to play? I know a lot of kids don't even want to play when they hit those years because they're burnt out.
You almost need like a young adult club league type thing.
Yeah.
It's just not varsity organized or anything. You know
yeah.
What I mean? It'd be less intense too, because that program is just so hard now. And like, I think we've talked about this a few times. It's just getting harder because of time, how much time the student athlete has in a day to be able to do everything. Mm-hmm. You know, because there's, I feel like it's more involved. And there's more things grabbing our attention now. So it's like a little more difficult to really focus on your academics, really focus on your athletics when we've got, our phones kind of going off and like everything, right? And kind of so distracted and so worried about
stupid podcasts and
or how we look on social media and
it's just interesting because so I guess sort of that brings us a little bit to this topic too, Shane. So like for the kids that are like trying to, so a lot of kids are getting stressed out by the end of club, right? Because they're so worried about going to the next level. And I before we get into the full topic, I mean, when it comes to recruitment and post-secondary, is there anything, I mean, how many years have you been out of the college world? 3. Okay, so not too far removed. So
no.
It was, you want to talk a little bit about, what about athlete like attrition when you were there? Like, were athletes sticking with the program? Did you have a lot of athletes quit?
I didn't.
Okay.
I was lucky that way. I think we worked hard at that though.
Mm-hmm.
Being at Durham's a good school. The university came in there. There was, from the time I started at Durham to when I ended, you could take university courses through Trent and play for Durham, which was an added bonus. Mm-hmm. And then when I left, the university was being built and athletes were coming in still through that, right? So, but no, we didn't. I think over from 2004 till if I go through to Seneca, I took the couple years in there from Durham to Seneca. 2004 to 2016. No, further than that. 2019, sorry. Maybe 2 athletes that didn't stick around
really,
in all those years.
That's good.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so maybe we should get into this now. How did you, what was your philosophy when it came to recruiting? Like, did you look for certain things in players? What was something like in your sense? I mean, of course you did, but what was did you have a particular philosophy or idea or thing you looked for?
I mean, any coach that tells you they're not looking for the best player they'd be lying, right? You're looking for the absolute best player that you can find. But for me, they had to fit in. Like, you have to be an academic. You have to be coming to school to get an education and go on. Like you just talked about, how many of these kids are doing anything when they're done? So they're coming for maybe 2 years, maybe 4, 5 if we were lucky. What are you doing after that? 90% of you are going to go start a career, right? Career, family, start moving through your life. So, we looked for the best athlete, but at the same time, they had to be a student. They had to understand that was expected. Mm-hmm. You can't play without being one. But then we always looked for kind of the right person, right?
Right.
There's 2 ways of looking at that. You can go, we won a couple bronze medals and that kind of thing, and that's as close as we got to winning it. But we graduated, basically all of our kids with high GPAs. So there's a lot of success in that avenue as well, right? So
yeah, where did you rank that? The idea of like how if you were to put a number on it, was academics 50-50 with the performance, or were you guys personal?
What do you mean? Like
development? Like what did you value more, the team's performance or player performance on the court, or life skill? If you ever thought about it,
I have thought about it. Yeah, it's funny because again, trying to improve as a coach, right? And just recently I was listening and watching some online stuff, some YouTube stuff, some of the art of coaching stuff, that kind of things, right? And there was a topic about, you know, coaches focus on developing the player, the person, the athlete, or coaches focus on winning, right? And it dawned on me, it's like, I've always focused on developing the person, right? And again, I'm like, okay, so is that why we didn't get the gold medal? Because I was more focused on making sure they were good people, they were good teammates, they were good community citizens, right? So yeah, for me, again, you know, after 22 years of coaching, having a moment going, yeah, I was focused on the person.
Yep.
Always.
Yeah, I think so. And I would submit to you too, probably, that that's probably why you attained the levels you did, because like we talked about, what you said earlier with process, yeah, you could have benched some kids. Yeah, you could have whatever, but you know, injuries. Like we always talk about on the show, even for the most competitive, you know, coach out there. When I say competitive, I mean the coach that wants to win above all anything else. I don't mean competitive, because that, to me, that's not really competitive. That's, like we said, ego insecure coach. So even if you're the most ego driven coach who wants the medals, you know, you bench half your team or whatever, and then when crunch time happens and there's an injury, they're not ready to go. You're in trouble. So you're screwed anyway. And you haven't created this, and you got this toxic environment of players hating players. It's hard to win in that scenario.
Yeah,
so I think you did the right thing.
Yeah, like I've watched some of your games when you were coaching and stuff, because I was even playing against you guys at the time. I remember your whole team was ready to go, and you actually used a lot of your players. I think I remember seeing that quite a lot. Just like you could easily make a sub whenever you needed it, right? So how many times would you have maybe like encountered a player when you're recruiting? How many times may you encounter them before they decide to join the team? Is it sometimes like just once at a tournament and you kind of approach them and be like, hey, like you know, I'm from this college and we'd love to like have you play, but it was like one time or maybe two times, like just trying to see like how. Never won, right?
Never.
Okay.
So for me, again, it's a process. It was a process, right? So I started out, you know, as an assistant and would go to the odd OVA tournament, and you know, at that time, I'll go to this one because it's close and it's easy, right?
Yeah.
And then as you start to develop again as a coach, you go, okay, hang on, I'm way behind the eight ball here. So you start, the process changes from going, okay, I can go once or twice and get this kid who's decent. Maybe it's not the best kid on that team, or not going to be one of the top kids in the OCAA, but to going, I need to start identifying kids or looking at kids and having conversations with parents when they're 16. So I can watch them when they're 16, when I watch them when they're 17, watch them when they're 18.
Right.
Right. And then when they're 18, hopefully by then they're in their last year and it's just a formality.
Yeah.
Right? You're coming to the tournaments and the parents are saying hi and you know all about them, and you're just checking in on them, making sure everything's good, and we're checking on marks and making sure that their applications are in, and have you gotten a response and that kind of stuff. So a lot of recruiting to do it properly happens 16, 17.
So you're also like helping them get familiar with like the college or the post-secondary world, like, because that's a really daunting thing for every student, right? And like it depends on like their differing parents, you know, may be able to handle that and help their kid a little bit more, but some are also equally as lost, right? Because it's been, you know, 30 years since they've been in post-secondary, and even back then it was different, right? So you're almost like you're meeting them younger, you know, at 16, and you're probably like taking a lot of that, you're answering a lot of questions that the parents have, the players have, and just making, if post-secondary is their choice, you know, to go to college, or probably facilitating and making it easier, like less stressful and stuff. So building a friendship like that's probably why you were like successful at recruiting. Part of the reason, right? I would think so.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
Right? Building that relationship. Excuse me. But like you say, facilitating, again, we don't have the luxury of going in unless it's changed. But when I was there, we didn't have the luxury of going to this college and going, okay, I want that kid. Here's your application. Let's move it, right? You just can't do that, right? In Canada.
Into another college?
No, like for us, we couldn't bump them ahead of the wait list. We couldn't.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah, exactly.
We can't do that. But you can facilitate a conversation with the right person to say, is my application filled out properly? What
Right.
else do I do? Right. So you're just making sure that if there is trouble, that they can talk to the right person
Get in catch of it before it's an issue.
before it's too
dealing with
late.
it.
Why
Yeah.
haven't I gotten a response? It's
Yeah.
you know, it's April. Well, your application was missing this or missing
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? So yeah.
And Shane, did you ever have players, because I'm sure a lot of parents listening to that, like, you know, thinking about making contact at 16, 17, and it's almost a foregone conclusion by 18. Did you ever have players that, like, what would happen if the player didn't develop at the same level? Like, teammates play beach, train, workout.
Right.
And then what happened? Did you ever have those athletes that were late bloomers, or did you ever have to change your mind that late in the game with someone?
Huh.
They didn't develop?
I always made sure that I didn't. Like I never committed.
Mm.
I'm not committing to you fully, just as I don't expect you to commit to me fully.
Right.
Life is going to change as things go along. I'm going to express my interest. This is why I'm interested, right? You're the right type of person. Your grades are good. I think you could fit in based on our needs, right? The same as I would expect the kid. Hey, if you have a change of heart, just tell me.
Exactly.
Just tell me. don't, now everybody talks about ghosting. Don't ghost me.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me know. If you don't want to come to us, I still think you're talented enough to play. Where do you want to go? I will let the coach know that you're
That's
gonna
cool.
reach out.
Yeah, and that's the right, like,
Yeah.
that's the right
crazy.
mindset too, right? Because so many coaches would be, no, we want you here, and they don't understand that if a player shows any hesitation to go to a school, like serious hesitation, or
Yes.
says I don't want to go, you're not going to make them want to go. You're just setting yourself up for failure by
They're gonna leave anyway. at some
yeah,
point.
they're going to leave anyway. So it's better to, it's like a relationship, right?
Yes,
You're
it
not-
is.
You're going to
Can't force you to
make,
be here.
make someone fall in love with you, right?
When I was at Seneca, I truly believe Seneca is one of the best schools to go to for academics and for athletics.
Right.
Right. They have the connection with the university through York.
And
They
how
have-
much did Seneca pay you for to say
To
that,
say
on,
that,
on such a
that's a-
hugely distributed podcast?
Delay.
It's just- I think we've been tricked, Eric.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're smart.
They're very smart.
marketing,
They saw an opportunity and they
Wait
took
a
it.
second.
got a text just before I came in. But to finish that thought, it was harder to recruit because of the location. Right, we were at the
Yeah.
404 in Finch.
Right.
Great campus.
So that for people who are like listening in another country, so where Ford and Finch is
Basically,
because it's a
North end of Toronto.
okay.
Yeah.
So hard to get to, not in the center, too far away from the center. Is that what you mean?
And I think also the area, there's areas not too far away from there that
So rough area.
a little bit rougher. Yeah, I'm trying to quickly figure out how to say
yeah,
that.
it's not desire like it's not a destination where a lot of kids might want to hang out.
No,
And it's still big city. Like you're still part of Toronto.
you're still part of Toronto.
And it's you can feel it, right? It's like
Yeah, we recruited a couple kids, and they were also looking at, for example, Fanshawe. Fanshawe is a great campus out in London, right? And
Yeah.
the kid would end up going there, and the coach and I would chat, and he's like, "Well, of course they came to us. Like, you guys are in a concrete jungle, and we're in the country, basically."
Does it
Yeah.
sound like Patrick?
No, that wasn't Patrick.
Oh, it was before.
No, yeah.
Oh, you're old. No, I'm just kidding.
But so there's that kind of thing, right? So you deal with it, but you have to let the athlete. It has to feel right, like you were saying. 100%, it has to feel right. As bad as you want them to come, you have to support them if that's not their decision. What else can you do? You can't force them to be there.
yeah.
and what would you say? So let's suppose you had a great player, physically great player. Do you have any stories, or is there some things that would stop you from trying to recruit? Like what things, personality wise, family wise, were there things that red flags that would have ever held you back, or if not, that would hold you back?
I would enjoy going to a tournament and watching a kid lose. There's a telltale sign right there, right? Like I talked about early, my 12-year-old, we talk about body language, right? And it's
You can push that mic up a little bit.
well,
Here,
Yeah, just-
we're like
yeah.
this.
yeah.
There
Yeah,
you
there you
go. There you go. Well,
Tutorial.
Amateurs.
Amateurs, the new guy.
20 episodes in.
Watching how somebody loses.
Yep.
Right. How do they interact with their team? Are they looking to blame somebody else? Are they a leader after a loss? That kind of stuff, right? And really trying to get to know the family, and watching without them kind of knowing that you're sitting back watching the interactions, having conversation with coaches. What are they really like, right? Don't just tell me, yeah, they hit a heavy ball, or they're really good on the defense, or they have a great serve. No, what are they like? Like, I would ask athletes, do you think you can fit in to our family? I would ask athletes that.
Interesting.
Right?
Did you have players that you had to turn down? Not, you don't have to name names, but do you recall turning down some pretty amazing players, or like just sort of not turning them down, but ruling them out in your mind, even though the stats said that maybe they would be a good player to take?
That's a good question. I don't think there's, let me put it this way. There isn't some that I turned down.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that went elsewhere, and I was thankful they went elsewhere after the
fact. Gotcha.
Mm.
After the fact. Oh, okay.
After the fact.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So, and you probably, and it's tricky to ask that question too, because a lot of coaches would already rule people out for a lot of things. They might not know why, you know what I mean? But
Correct.
like our stats, you never considered them because you saw some of the things you probably noticed, negative personality traits.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one to ask because you probably already buried them in your mind.
The volleyball world is not as big as it it seems.
Yes.
So
It's the same faces.
the same
people.
faces. The best players are known by all the coaches. The best players that are great teammates are known by all the coaches. The best players that are not the best teammates are known by all the coaches.
Yeah.
So
It may be because of the fact that Shane is so involved in caring that the player kind of picked up on that in a way, and it's like, oh man, I won't be able to like get away with like as much slouching or whatever, you know, shitty attitude with a coach. Like,
hey, Shane, Eric, you're not supposed to swear on the show.
oh, I didn't swear. Did I?
You said poopy. You said
Oh,
the
yeah,
bad
yeah,
version of
that's what
poopy.
I thought I said.
That's a swear word.
it's a work. I heard watching previous episodes. It's a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to.
That's the word I have a tough time with. I'm working on it. Sorry. But yeah,
progress.
that you
Process.
care too much, right? Maybe that's why.
Well, using that word family is a good one to scare away people.
Sorry, Shane.
You know,
Move it up a little bit.
people-
I feel like he's slouching.
Maybe
yeah.
I'm slouching.
Yeah.
No, I feel like
yeah.
Try not
said
to
it
hide
low.
my face.
We wouldn't want that. That's good. Shane's face is good for ratings. That's why we brought him here.
No, it's because the chin that goes up, and then you can just see my chin underneath.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to comment about your chin. No, but so parents, I'm sure, are listening would think, now, have you ever had a player come out of nowhere? Like, sorry, I guess a walk-on tryout. These days, it's really hard to get tryouts because the teams like are almost full by the time players are.
Beforehand.
Yeah, unless it's like a further away school. But have you ever had a player show up as a walk-on that you didn't know about because they were playing in the middle of nowhere?
A couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
Were
ask
they-
me to name names.
No, I know what you mean. No, yeah, don't name names.
But-
They weren't a club player, maybe. Like,
Well, no, because you could be a
They
club,
w-
you
yeah.
could be a club player, but play somewhere far away and never go for the
Yeah.
provincial stuff, never send your videos in, never
Sure.
never try out for things,
Correct.
and then just show up at a school and be like, whoa. And that's where I think today a lot of schools, man, they're filling up their rosters, and I'm like, I don't know. I would like same with club teams, by the way. We talked about this on the show, right?
Pre-signing period.
There are club
Yeah.
teams, man. Club teams that are full before the year starts, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, that's insanity. Like, so every player knows they're on the team. That's
yeah, I can't wait. I guess we're bringing it up right now, but
yeah, but that's insane. But at the varsity
Wow, I
level,
just started hearing about this like this year when we started
Oh,
doing
did you?
this. Yeah, I had no
Yeah, 'cause,
idea. they
yeah,
were
he
doing
wouldn't
this in
know, right?
club. It's just
but
like,
varsity for varsity, it's the same thing. Like post-secondary, I would think that you would want to have just keep something open. Again, I think there's a lot of parents listening who are like, please say there's an
An
oppor-
at least,
or there's
yeah.
an opportunity that if someone hasn't played I don't like to say played the games, but jumped through all the hoops of provincial stuff, state stuff in the U.S. Is that someone?
Yeah.
I think it might have been me. Probably me. It's probably the rookie.
Now we put the mic
Rookie
too close to him.
mistake. No, that's fine. It's fine.
mistake.
We want to hear that. That's what people want. They
Yeah,
want to hear the stomach problems,
Edit that out later.
gastrointestinal issues. That's what we're here for. No, but so I guess how full was your roster? I guess is the question. Was it pretty much a done deal? You don't have to. No.
I don't think there was. I mean, there's a couple of years where I'll
Seniors.
say we got lucky with recruiting. We got lucky with walk-ons, if you want to call them that.
Okay.
At the last minute, whether they decided to change schools.
Oh, okay.
But I always had the mindset, and I tried to be open and honest that we're going to take the best kids.
Yes.
Right? Now, if I tried to recruit a kid and I spent time recruiting a kid and I had a kid come in and I said, listen, yes, come to this college, you're going to be a part of this team, then they had a spot.
Right.
So
Yeah, because you owed them that. Yep.
you owed them that, right?
Mhm.
Like, especially if they had other opportunities.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I would never cut somebody who I recruited.
And I think that's what parents
Yeah.
probably want to hear.
That's
is that
huge.
If coaches are taking the best players, then that's all a parent wants, right? Or a kid wants, or a coach wants. The problem I think that parents sometimes see, and I've seen it in club tryouts and in sometimes college too, and post-secondary, where sometimes you're like, some kids are getting cut that are pretty decent, and
Right.
and it could be because that kid, like what you talked about, maybe there was a long-term commitment going on for a couple of years and courting period, and then
Right.
the coach is now trapped in a scenario where they have to take this athlete. But it's just in club world, I can't stand it when I see great players getting overlooked or relegated to a position that they're not in just because the whole team has been
Together
booked in
forever.
advance. Yeah.
Well, yeah, what he just said, like, shed some light on that situation, right? Like, you've made that commitment to that player, you've known them for years or whatever, so you keep them on because you've built that relationship, and then all of a sudden you have a walk-on who maybe can challenge a position, so you're in a tricky you're now in a tricky position, right? Like, you have a full roster. Maybe there's things you can do, like, because you don't want to discourage that player. You're super thankful that they came out and they're trying out, but
Correct.
maybe you can redshirt them or well, they've chose that college, right? So yeah, that's got to be.
Well, we're assuming that's for the rarest of the rare. That's probably
it's gotta be
for
rare.
like the dynamite player that you're.
I mean, realistically, at college level, you're keeping anywhere between 12 and 16 players.
Yep.
Right. You can only play 14, of course, for each match.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
I mean, there's an opportunity there to say, okay, you're here. We've completed step 1.
Right.
Now step 2 is you decide how much playing time you're going to get.
Right.
Right. And as long as coaches we make that process fair, then it goes back to the athletes, right? We give them the repetitions, give them the technical feedback, set the expectations. Now you decide as an athlete, are you playing this set or is that kid playing this?
Right.
See, this answers sorry, another one of my questions is that because I'm seeing more of the process here, and like you're doing your recruiting, you already know what the athletes are capable of before they even join your team, right? So by the time they are on your team, you know what all of them are capable of, right? So
Right.
it's not a matter of I'm just going to play these top 6, 7, 8 or whatever, and the rest of you are just here to fill out scrims and whatnot. It's like, no, I know you're all capable of excellence at this sport. Now, yeah, just show me like.
Well, that's
want
the
to
good
play,
coach.
right?
Yeah,
So-
that's the good coach approach.
Yes.
Not the majority of coaches. I would say that the majority of coaches are probably going to have about 8 players, and they're not even like some coaches don't even put them in blowouts, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that, Shane. Like
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I've made mistakes as a coach. I look
Yeah.
back now because, again, like I talked about trying to evaluate myself as a coach and trying to be better. I look back now and go, I would love to have a couple teams and redo some things.
of course, yes,
Right.
Yeah.
And the makeup of the team was good. One of the teams was probably one of the best teams I'd ever had.
So are you saying sorry right now, Shane? Do you want to look in the camera and say sorry?
They're not watching.
Everybody watching.
I'm going to send this to them, though.
Yeah, no, but this is good because I think this is the H word that I think is so important for players, coaches, and parents, the humility, right?
Yeah.
You are willing to look at
Yeah.
your past self and your current self and always be revising, always be questioning, right? So that's a big thing. And the fact that you're saying it on, such a huge popular show like this.
This is going to be seen by everybody.
This is going everywhere. It's like CNN, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he does remember. He doesn't remember it well because it was emotional, or like in a way, like you can I'm sure recall it well. It's because you're like you feel some guilt or regret or whatever, right? So that is Sorry, I guess I'm just
I
defining
guess regret.
humility.
Do you think it would be regret? I don't think it would be regret.
No, I guess it wouldn't be regret.
I don't know if it's regret.
the process of growth, right? Where now you remember it so well that's why it will likely carry forward with you in your future coaching years, and hopefully you can.
And I
I think
think
what Eric means is it'll haunt you till the day you die.
some of them will really do bother me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe altercations or problems you had with a
No,
player.
just decisions that I made as the coach. Because I think, again, if I was more confident in what I was doing at the time, I would have made the changes. and I think our team would have been more successful for it.
And how much do you think this show helped you come to this news zen?
I'm going to be honest, I can't give you credit for it.
Well, we're out of time for this
Thank
week,
you
everybody.
very much.
Thanks for coming.
I'd like to thank Seneca College.
It's completely comes from coaching 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
So it's recent then. So
It's recent. It's
okay.
literally in the last 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was it about the kids that made you sort of understand?
Because I
You
think
saw every player that you coached now as a little kid?
no, you have to reevaluate the game, right? You have to understand that even though kids are 20, 22, 23, 24, 18, whatever, they still need an opportunity to fail, right? And when they do fail, you can't take away their opportunity to rebound from that and come back. Right?
Yes.
And sometimes you've got to take risks that, we're comfortable with this 6 or we're comfortable with this 8, right? But this kid's worked their tail off. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
And let them fail.
Yeah. And learn from it. Learn from the process and quit worrying about the result.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I think that's sort of where I had it come to me through the business sense a little bit, like doing Envato and running an organization, and same sort of idea was that, process matters, consistency matters, mistakes are amazing for me or for the organization. And then when my kids started playing a few years before your daughter started playing, that's where I really saw like all the flaws in the system and what people were doing with that kid. And one thing was early, we talked about this on the show quite a bit, but you remember I had a friend in high school who was benched. And he became, I don't know if you ever heard this on the episode or heard me talk about it before, but, our coach never played him the whole tournament. And we were blowing teams out. And felt awful for him that he never touched the court. And he was like, quote unquote, the worst player. He goes to a volleyball camp for the summer, comes back, and he's our best player in his final year of high school. And then he goes and starts at a university, one of the York, right? And became a star varsity player.
Wow.
And that guy was the worst player sitting at the end of our bench after grade 11. In grade 11. So that's pretty late, right?
It is.
That, like, we learned very early on that, this whole idea that, the coach knows best and that crappy player at the end of your bench might, and I also learned too that players peak so late in the sport that for some coach to rule out a 14, 15, 16, even 17-year-old, right? Like compare your 17-year-old self to your 22-year-old self.
Right.
Way better, right? So the idea that coaches who, again, haven't played and don't know that a player can peak very late. Our player can peak much, if you give them a chance, they might even peak this season. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And that's what, I think that's what you're saying you saw too, right?
You have to figure out how motivated a kid is, right? If an athlete's motivated and you don't give them the opportunity, if you don't kill their motivation, they're just going to find their motivation somewhere else.
That's a good one. If you don't kill the motivation,
you cannot kill their motivation. You can't.
And that's where all the programs talk about, having kids have to enjoy the game. It has to be fun for a very long time before you can just. That's how you ignite passion, and then passion leads to, I want to play all the time. And well, that's sort of what we all grew up with, right? Like we all sort of Eric was at the tail end of it, but the days where guys and we would be at the beach all day playing or sneaking into gyms.
Oh man,
yeah, it was nonstop, right? And
it was,
and that's where we got better.
Right. It's funny. I tell my kid about those days now.
Yeah.
Right. And what was that? 20 years ago, Zub? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe 20.
It doesn't seem that long.
It was 20. Yeah, 20 more maybe.
We would play from noon until dark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just rotating in.
Back-to-back days.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. And that's what I always liked about beach. I'm sure is your daughter going to get into beach?
I'm trying to have that discussion now.
Yeah.
She plays lacrosse. She's pretty good at lacrosse.
Oh, that's right. In
so that takes up a lot of her summer.
Right.
But I'm sure there's a Saturday in there somewhere.
Because we talk about this, Eric, too. Like, what did you love about beach compared to indoor, Eric?
Well, yeah. So the freedom and also the difficulty, mentally, right? Like, because it's you locked in with your partner, so there's no hiding on a court, right? Yeah, that was the big thing, and then.
And the freedom from the system, right? Like we were talking about.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
like
the freedom.
Yeah, no coach, whatever. It's just you. Like we were talking about this. Like we used to just remember that one parking lot behind Durham used to be beach courts.
Yes.
Like that's how I got into the sport. That's how I loved it. Is doing the summer camps there when I was like under 14 or whatever, and then all of a sudden I met some guys who like to play the sport, and then we're going there after school, I guess, or I wasn't working, but then and then it's just us. You know, I got my my driver's license as quickly as possible. Basically, parents had an old beater car, so I could do it. And then that was the big thing. And then it was just so much fun. And then because the sport's so hard at first, and then all of a sudden you start to get good at it, right? So you're enjoying it more, and you're finally blocking your buddies or able to hit as well as them. And it's funny, this conversation of how you're giving players the opportunity to fail. I finally remember like a breakthrough moment from last episode. And
okay, so Eric's answering a question from the last episode. That's a good tie-in. That way they have to go back and listen to the whole 2.5 hours.
Everyone's going to turn off this episode and stop listening now. But stop.
Yeah. Was this a breakthrough moment where you decided you wanted to stick with volleyball?
It was a breakthrough moment of when I finally became quite good at a skill, and it was because of the opportunities. It was passing. Yeah. It was when I was 18 at Ryerson. Because I was a middle, right? I wasn't left side, and I was being coached to be a left side, right side, but mostly left side. So, and the team was mostly veterans, like 23, 24, 25. There's only 3 rookies, so majority of everyone was in their 3rd and 4th year or 5th, right? So very good team. And the first few months, whatever, I'm just like, maybe the first month, I'm just super nervous. These guys are amazing. I suck, right? But they keep getting me better. And then even in games, like, because it was also a very good team, we went 16-2 the season. But in games where we knew we could, kind of handle the competition, he would even let some of the rookies start the match. It's one thing for the starters to start the match, and then you could put it in the second.
Right.
You have that bit of a comfort feeling. But when you start a match, and you have no idea, as being a rookie, like how good this team is and stuff like that. So the nerves are just through the roof, and here I am passing some varsity level spin serves, float serves, back with that black, white, red Baden.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal floating ball, right? And so just nerves through the roof. And sure enough, I'm just like launching a few shanks, like the first opportunities I'm getting. And but like I'm left in, and then whatever, and then I come off second set, whatever, and then I get to do it, 2 games later or something like that, right? And I actually remember that's how I think by the end of that season, I was like a pretty good passer. And then
you felt like you belonged, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And then like I definitely got my legs about halfway through the season, so it felt better in all aspects of the game, basically. Because practice was amazing as well. It was just like we would do such fun drills of like 3-on-3 back row, and so it's just we really developed like all areas of the game. Like so, middles were setting and passing just as much as they were blocking and stuff like that, and vice versa, right? So. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, that's the best thing about beach too. To take it back to the question you were talking before.
All of them were beach players. The whole team was beach players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because beach players get to do all the skills. So if any parents listening and you're worried, because I think the number one issue I see in post-secondary with a lot of kids is those kids that are told they're middles and club, and this, and then they go to post-secondary and the coach is like, "You're too short to be a middle. You're a left side, right?" And then, or maybe a right side if they're lucky enough, but if they're a left side. And then they can't pass because of years of club where they haven't been able to. That's another thing about club coaches, if they're listening, and you got a player that's a undersized middle or a small middle for club, make sure you give them some reps at passing. Let them pass somewhere. Like this whole, like you don't have to libero everybody. Again, it gets back to, do you want to win right now, or are you trying to develop the person and the player for their future or your present, right? So taking it back to recruiting again, though, Shane, I think all of this is on topic, but what if you were to give a parent advice? So let's suppose their kid is getting near the end of high school, or near the end of their club career, and they don't know where to start, because that's the number one thing we get from people asking, like, what would you do for sorry, what was that? What would you do for what would you suggest a parent or a player do? Especially, I mean, I guess a player it has to come from the player, of course, but any suggestions for parents that you would give based on your experience?
Reach out to the coach. Go watch the team play. Research the school. Decide what you think your future looks like, right? Do you really want to play? Get an understanding of what it takes to play post-secondary. Not every program is going to be the same. Some programs are going to be maybe a little more intense. Yeah, you have to do your research, and you have to do it early, right? Like you talked about not too long ago here tonight. A lot of teams are full. A lot of teams are full early.
Yep.
Before that season even starts. You know, if you watch social media now, you'll see college and university programs doing their signings, right, as soon as they were able to.
Yep.
So
see that a lot.
yeah, teams and rosters fill up early, but figure out what you want to do, what you think your future looks like. Do you really want to play? And get an understanding of that school first, that program, and that coach.
Did you like getting the emails from, like, so if a player emailed you and said, hey, I've applied to your school, what would you want to see in that? Would you want to see links to full games? Would you want to see, clips are pretty useless because people make them look amazing.
We edit everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So would you want to see full game links plus a little write-up of who they are, where they've played, if you've never heard of them?
I liked getting an invite with their schedule. Here's where I'm going to be. Can you come watch me? Right? Because again, video is great, but if you're doing it right, you're sending in good clips, right? Don't you're not going to send in a whole clip of mistakes.
What if people send in a full game? Would you consider that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, you don't have time, right, to watch it.
And that's
what I hear a lot from coaches.
It is, right? It'd be like getting a resume, okay? That's 6 pages long paragraphs.
Right.
You're not, if you're an employer, you're probably going, I don't have time.
Right.
You come back to it if everything else doesn't look good.
But right? Clips, so you do want clips, but you want
some clips. I like clips. Show us what you can do, right? Show us those highlights. If you can really hit a ball, show us hitting a ball from different locations, different spots on the court, different sets, from transition, from blocking to attacking, from passing to attacking. But invite me to come out and watch you play.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see what you look like live. Let me see those interactions, right? Let me show that you're really interested and you have confidence enough in yourself to have me stand in the gym knowing you want to come play for me, and you still go do your thing.
And what if they're like, do you ever look, so I know that one things we see in, like, we're part of this volleyball moms group on Facebook where a lot of good questions come up and we get a lot of content for the show from there. So shout out to the volleyball moms on Facebook. One thing that comes up is are you ever, would you ever disregard a kid if the clips are decent and they're playing somewhere that you consider to be a lower class club? No.
That's where your gems come from.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's good to know.
Not always, but somewhere there's been that kid has reached out to 5 or 6 coaches, and 3 or 4 of them has, I'm not going to bother there because I want, better than that maybe. And then that kid ends up being a star.
There's
that they end up being the right person.
That late peak we talk about, right? The right mind. Do you have any stories about that? Did you ever find a player that you think you considered a scoop?
There was a young lady at Durham College years ago. Her name was Julie. Her family was family of farmers. She was fantastic. She came in. She was good, and we had her for 2 years. And when she left, she was almost an all-star. Wow. Yeah, because she just had the work ethic.
Right.
I remember doing a middle drill with this young lady and just ball after ball after ball, transition and attack. And she was exhausted, and she never slowed down for 1 second.
Wow.
She kept going. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think parents would love to hear that, because that's where, they want to know that hard work gets rewarded. And I'm assuming she wasn't putting herself out there a lot through, like, because she was a farmer in a rural area, right? Yeah.
I believe, if I remember correctly, she just happened to come to the open house to look at the academics, and that's where the first conversation happened. Didn't know who she was, didn't know and suddenly it's like, she walks up to the athletic gazebo and. Here, talk to the coach.
That's cool. Yeah. So advice would be reaching out to coach, you said, right?
Reaching out.
And then do you, like, what, is there a red flag for you? Like, when you see a parent or a family, are there things that would turn you off? You're laughing already.
I am laughing already. And this has changed, right? Like I said, I've been away from the college recruiting for several years. but I'm back in the club system.
Mhm.
And I go to tournaments. I go and watch the older teams in our club. I try and watch as many teams as I can, especially when they're local.
Mhm.
I would go and look at any kid that asked me to come, right? I would go to their high school, or if they play club, I would go to their club game.
So you would go to, like in our area where club is so much more dominant, you would go to high school?
100%.
Oh, okay.
Different. It's a different
Yeah.
personality,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a different atmosphere.
Interesting.
Are they playing on a good team? Are they the best player on their school team? Are they sitting on the bench on their school team?
Right.
Right? So it's a different atmosphere.
Yeah, because you can see if they're a jerk with bad players,
Correct.
or
Yeah,
strong,
correct.
or like how are they in a different setting? That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah. And what is their?
Would you typically go to both?
I would try.
Okay.
I would try. Depending on where we're recruiting the kid from. The further
Yeah.
away, you probably
It's
wouldn't.
harder.
I wouldn't be able to match up the school schedule to go see
Right.
local kids in this area. 100%.
Okay.
I would try and track down a tournament.
What's
Yeah.
the furthest you went to find a kid
Furthest I went.
geographically?
That's a good question.
He's like, one time I hid in the bushes with it.
I was trying to think. We had some kids from London.
So that's like 3 hours away.
3 hours. Some kids from the Ottawa area, Kingston. I'm trying to think. Did we have? I'm trying to think where this one kid was from. I don't
Did you
think
have
it was
any kids from
Chatham.
far
Maybe
away?
she was
But
Chatham.
not out of the province.
Oh yeah, we had
yeah.
we had a couple kids from Winnipeg.
Oh, okay, yeah. But you didn't go out there, or they?
They came here. She
Okay.
cher with her parents
Wow.
and checked out the school, and came and we set up practices, and
That's cool.
yeah.
Like a just for her, like to see her working out.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
What's the? We have to ask, like, what's any big, without naming any names, horror stories with parents, or
No. So
No?
this is a good one. That's a good question, actually.
can you make one up for the show?
We want
Uh,
drama.
No,
We
I'm
want
just-
drama.
I
I'm
could
just
probably
kidding, I'm
make
just
one
kidding.
up. I
No,
could
no.
turn a player story into a parent story.
I just so
That's
you have
funny.
player stories.
Turn the player. Yeah.
Okay.
No, what?
No.
no
Go ahead.
parent stories, because I made it very clear to the parents.
Mhm.
Very seldom did I have parents try to have conversations.
Yeah.
Right? It would start out casual. You'd finish a match, and then you'd be, walking out to talk to the team, and a mom or a dad would come down. Oh, they did really well, and my kid did really well here, and I always change the subject.
Yes.
Right?
Hey, look over there, and then you run like a.
I'd just be like, the team did very well.
Yes.
I'll talk to you in a bit, or right,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
to the point where I know a couple times where a parent tried to engage me, and I literally I just looked at them and said, "Yeah, it's really nice outside, isn't it?" Right? There's no, at the college level, the kids are responsible for themselves.
Yes, and that you do have that advantage too, because they
You
are
actually can.
over 18.
You
can
do.
use
Privacy
that,
Act, you
yes.
can say, right, if you really wanted to, you can say, Privacy Act, I can't disclose anything about your kid.
Mm.
If you want to know, talk to them.
Yep.
Including their grades, how volleyball's going. So I would never get into discussions with parents once their kid was on my team.
Right. And,
Right.
and yeah, exactly. And I think a good coach would reference that quite a bit. And I think it is less of a problem in the post-secondary world, although a growing problem, I think, in the last few years.
Okay, so wait, like kid gets on your team, and then the parents come watch, and then they say, "Oh yeah, so and so did great." You're not supposed to talk about them. What?
You
Or-
can. Like, I can say, yeah,
Yeah.
your kid did great.
Yeah.
But you're not getting into discussions about how they're doing each practice. They're on time. Yeah, I think school's
Okay,
going
okay.
well.
It's avoiding favoritism or like
It's just,
yeah.
those are things for the team. If they want to know those things, then hopefully they have good discussions with their own child.
Right. Okay.
Same as
And
if their
it's-
kid was
yeah.
being a pain. I'm not going to run to the parents and go straighten out your kid.
Right.
That's my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
To bring them back into our philosophy, right? If they're not doing well in school, I'm going to help facilitate with an academic advisor, and we're going to sit. We would at Durham and at Seneca, I had a couple kids would come and say, "Hey, do you mind if I miss practice? I have an exam, or I have an assignment, or right." And it would always be the same question. Well, how come it's last minute, right? Like, are you right? Talk about time management.
Yeah.
We would cancel practice, and the whole team would meet and study. The whole team.
Mm-hmm.
They no, if you need to miss, then somebody else needs to miss. So we're all going to get together and stop.
Yeah, it's true because crunch time is at the same.
Correct.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, the more I spend time, you know, there's a few coaches that I know that are high-level coaches, and they all say the same thing. They all say that the things that other coaches deem to be not competitive things are the things that make them successful. So in other words, when you have a coach that cares about the person and things like that, like you just talked about their schooling, that's why that team does better, because they care about each other, or they'll give someone that mental break, or they'll give someone that, you know, letting other people play when other coaches would never let them play.
Right.
That is the success, right? No, it's not the gripping on tight and like, let's win. It's the
ignoring the academics.
Let's treat these
well-being.
people like people, because they aren't all going to be professional volleyball players.
Correct.
They are going to be good people in society.
Yes.
Right? And you need that to, you know, if you worry about developing that, then a lot of the other stuff takes care of itself, right? If they are good people who are well adjusted and mentally fine and feel valued, they will outperform people who don't feel valued, who aren't, you know, treated with respect every day of the week. And
Every time.
I don't know. I mean, one thing, so just so you know, Shane, we have been getting messages, honestly. Like, we've gotten messages from coaches who privately thank us, because sometimes when we put things out on social media, a lot of angry coaches don't like it.
Correct.
And we've gotten, so coaches are listening to what we're saying, and they are changing. Literally, coach messaged us and said, "Thank you for putting this up. I'm changing the way I coach because you guys." So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's awesome that it's nice to hear high-level coaches like yourself. And I think it's funny that you're coaching like 11-year-olds in the club, because how many parents? I mean, we don't get too far off topic, but do you have a lot of parents who don't know your resume, and they start, you know, criticizing?
I'm
Or,
gonna say
so
100%.
you don't have to talk about
Quick
it.
story. Quick story. That's a quick story.
We don't want to get political.
No, there's no politics. Quick story. So two little things. We had a parent meeting at the start of the year with our club team, and same thing. We do introductions to coaches. All of our coaches, we didn't talk one thing about what we've done. We talked about how the things in the past don't matter. It's what we do with your kids now.
Nice.
Second story. My daughter got to play on her intermediate school team this year. Okay. School ball. Loved it. There's nothing I love more than going and sitting and watching.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
Loved
you're right. Yeah.
Right?
You're just a parent.
They were in their area championships.
Okay.
I'm sitting on the stage. I'm watching. Right? They play. They win. They had a good team. Their coach was a great guy. He's done a great job. Right? He comes over and he sits down, and he's actually cousins with Kyle Thompson.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, guys.
So,
Yeah.
so he says to me, he says, I was talking to my cousin. He says, I was talking to Kyle, right? And he looks at me, he says, I had no idea you were as involved in the volleyball world as you are. And I just kind of chuckled. I said, yeah, but it doesn't matter. You've done such a great job with these girls. It's nowhere is it my place to say anything. Like,
Nice.
I'm just, thanks for the opportunity.
Your pleasure to watch. Yeah.
It was
cool.
It was one of my favorite times to just sit and watch.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah, and what was that coach doing that was that you liked? Just for other coaches.
Every
like
kid
coach
was getting
school.
an opportunity to play.
Mm-hmm.
They supported each other, so he built that culture.
Yeah.
Right. And he was honest with them when it came down. These kids made it to the DIA championship, but he put it out there when, okay, we're getting in the playoffs. The bench is going to shorten a bit, but then they had opportunities throughout playoffs where they were blowing teams out, like you were talking about. Kids got on the floor.
Yes, exactly.
He
That's
didn't
huge.
kill their motivation.
That's what I find too. My
Did
daughter's
such a good job.
My daughter's in a similar situation. She's playing high school.
Yeah.
Luckily, her coach is a high-level athlete in a different sport, but she is playing kids, putting them in blowouts, knowing when to put them back in, knowing when to take them out. No kid on that team feels like they're not part of it. I said to them at the end of the first tournament, I was like, you know what I love about you guys? No kid is going to leave this tournament with like a bad memory.
Correct.
Every kid is going to leave this tournament loving the day. And yes, you may have taken some losses, you know what I mean, during the day, but it doesn't matter because for the whole season, this was the first tournament of the year.
Right.
So for the whole season, all these kids feel like they have a shot.
Correct.
And this is a high school senior volleyball team, right? And the kids are getting better. The kids that are, were on the bench or, other coaches who just would have relegated, they're getting better. And now you can call on them. You can use them in crunch time.
It's so important.
It's so funny how people don't understand that. I think, you know what it is? It's the trap of pro sports, right? Like a lot of coaches pace around the sidelines like their favorite coaches on TV. And they think that they're coaching in some Olympic final, right? And they're like shortening the bench, you know. But if you watch the coaches in those Olympic finals, they're not screaming at players for mistakes.
They're so calm.
They're angry when players maybe don't go for it. Or, you know, I mean, if that even it doesn't even happen at that level. That's why they're there. So yeah, no, I think it's awesome. Yeah, to sit back and watch and to see a coach, any coach, if they foster joy, especially at that age.
They're just kids.
And all the way through, really, right? They're all kids. They're all kids, right?
We had a moment with our 12s, with our 13U team, right? Where for me, again, as a coach, constant evaluation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked to them about the process. We talked to them about not worrying about the one mistake because it's not a game of perfection. It's 25 points, right? Maybe more. And I realized as a coach, we were only saying something from the sideline when, you know, maybe they didn't get behind the ball to pass, or maybe they didn't get their feet there to attack.
Yeah.
And I realized, I'm like, we're doing to them what we don't want them to do to themselves.
Mm.
We're only commenting on the one mistake. So how can they not focus on it?
Right. 100%.
We literally, the next tournament, the coaches, we sat, we enjoyed, we gave feedback. We were positive the whole time. We were cheering them on, right?
Yep.
And the kids didn't even look at us.
Yeah.
They didn't look at us.
That's
they went to each other. You see kids at 12 years old. Sorry, you see them. My bad. That's me. I got the next one. Yep. Right? At 12. And this tournament we were in, it was just constant games. They played 20 sets. They won 18 of them.
Wow.
And they had a great time.
It's funny, when you leave it up to the players, what happens.
Get out of their way.
100%.
I'm laughing because I love this. Yeah, like my buddy and I who used to play at Durham, we were just cracking jokes about this the other day on New Year's Eve or whatever. But we're making fun of a coach. He was like, whenever we would like shank a ball, we would just hear, "All right, pass up." It's like, bro, you think I don't know what just happened? So yeah, I literally just having a great laugh about it a few days ago. So,
but that's coaching just to make sure that you're a part of it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've done your job as a coach, you've done your part in practice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. One of the best coaches I know said to me once, like, my job is done once the game begins. And if I'm up there screaming on the sidelines, that means that I haven't done my job in practice
at all.
And this is a time we do the prep and practice. This is your time to perform. Yeah. It's kind of like a play. Imagine if a director came out in the middle of a show yelling at actors.
Yeah.
They don't do that. They sit back, they watch, they assess, they have the video, and they'll fix it later.
Correct.
They don't run out of the show and wait a minute. You're standing in the wrong spot. Like, so maybe coaches, that'd be cool if coaches could start to think themselves as like directors, where they would never interrupt the performance, right? It's all done behind the scenes. I think I just invented something.
You did, actually.
Yet another reason. See,
it makes sense.
It takes an hour and a half, but eventually, something comes out there.
Something comes out.
Yeah. So that's what my doctor says. So, anything else you want to ask Shane, Eric? I think we gave advice for parents. Is there anything else, Shane, that you would say to a young? What about a player maybe who's maybe not confident enough to think that they could make a post-secondary team?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, right.
You know what? This isn't my quote. This is a quote that I saw on YouTube.
We'll edit this out.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah, to the world.
There's a whole section to the quote, but it basically says you can be successful as long as you believe in yourself. It doesn't matter if your coach believes in you, if your teammates believe in you. As long as you believe in yourself, you can be successful, right? If there's something you want to do, don't let anyone tell you can't do it. So if you want to play post-secondary, OCAA in Ontario, there's lots of opportunity. There's 24 teams now, I think.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity. Take some video, listen to your coaches.
If they're good.
No,
but you still have to be respectful.
You have to be respectful.
Even if you disagree with the coach, always have to be respectful.
Not every coach at the post-secondary level is going to take you because you do everything perfectly. They're going to take you because they can teach you to be better.
Yeah.
Right? So every coach good coach at the post-secondary level, and there's lots of them.
They are, and there is some comfort in that too. I think for players that
Correct.
and parents, the coaching does jump significally.
I think so.
Where I don't want to say this, but it does matter how much the school pays the coaches, right? If you get, I mean, I guess how much competition there is for that job.
True.
I mean, I don't want to say it's all about the money, but there is, like if the job is wide open and people get it, like in club, like it's wide open and anybody can get it, and the coaching quality kind of is watered down. But if you get to the post-secondary level, there is a huge jump in quality of coaching. I'll leave it at that.
No, there is for sure. And I find volleyball is one of those things where the coaches have to be self-motivated as well to get better. You have to register for the clinics. You have to continue your training and your education, and you have to attend. I think as coaches, the best thing we can do is talk to each other.
Yeah.
Right? I love listening to coaches.
Yeah, same here.
I love it. Wow. You may be doing the exact same thing I do, but you're describing it or saying different keywords, and it's so much better.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Cool. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the athletes have changed. I don't think that's a cop out and go, well, I'm different than the athletes were 10 years ago. You still need to work hard. You still need to be competitive. You still need to be able to handle pressure and be coachable and listen and be a good teammate, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing. See, what I liked what you said about the advice for players that you can do if you believe in yourself. That's great. One thing I'm seeing more and more of, and I think coaches don't call themselves out for this too, is like players want results. Like they think, yeah, I'm going to go make that team, or I'm going to go make that school team or whatever, but they aren't putting in the work.
Correct.
And then they get angry when they don't get the result. And coaches are the first one to call that out in players, but I often tell coaches, like, how about you though? Like, how much work are you as a coach putting in? Like you mentioned there, like, are you reassessing? Are you reevaluating? Are you looking stuff up? Are you researching? Because you would criticize the player for that, and we all do. Some players don't see it. Parents don't see it in themselves either. But coaches also need to do that self-reflection, I think, too, and that's a huge thing. And that's something I think that it's societal almost right now.
We all do. Yeah.
It's becoming more and more with the social media thing where everybody wants the result without the work. So I think for you, like going back to your point about the players, like I'm sure that's something that you're seeing in athletes too. I mean, I know you were 2019 you were done there
at Seneca.
At Seneca. So did you see athletes wanting the result without or do you think you filtered them out through your good recruiting process?
I think I filtered it out with good leadership on my teams.
Like the senior players?
With the senior players, with the captains. Set the expectation through them.
That's cool.
And have them carry the message to the team.
That's nice, yeah.
Right?
That's the other good thing
but
about...
But consistent, right? You have to be consistent with that message. If you're not consistent, then you open it up, right?
Yep.
But the biggest thing is that your leaders and your best players, they're held accountable as well. They don't get to do whatever they want.
Right. And we talked about that, Eric, in your experience too. You found that there was inconsistency.
I did not have an experience like this.
Well, that's where the toxicity, and most people don't. Player. Most people don't. Like a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, at a high level, if you get a high level coach and you get a good quality coach, you're going to have consistency across the board, understanding where toxicity comes from.
Sorry, I did have it at one school, didn't have it at the other. Yeah, it was.
Yes, just to be clear.
I used to, every season as a head coach at the varsity level, we had a team meeting to start the year. And we would lay out the expectations, whether it was curfews, whether it was travel, whether it was alcohol consumption, because again, they're adults, right?
Yep.
And I would tell the kids.
Adults, you mean?
Adults.
Or
yeah.
the kids?
Well, some of them are kids. Some of them are still kids.
Still kids.
Yeah. That I would treat everybody fairly, but not equally, right? And I would explain the difference. Like, if you're a rookie coming in and you make a mistake or you make 5 mistakes, we're going to talk about those mistakes and we're going to work through those mistakes, right? If there's effort there, great. If they're lazy, but if you're a fifth-year player and you're doing something that's lazy, the conversation's going to be different, right?
Yeah, because you understand, where they should be.
They understood.
They understand.
It wasn't about everybody being treated the same, but it was about individually you're treated fairly, right? So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Anything else, Eric?
Just click another time.
Right now.
Another time.
I was just flustered.
Windows update.
Peter's choices.
I don't know. I mean,
How was your recruiting were you recruited, or did you just? How did you get in, or did you try out on site?
I was recruited like last minute. I had no idea. Maybe they were watching me play earlier, and then maybe they engaged my parents, and they didn't even tell me about it. I heard about it like probably midway through my final club season, and then I was like, oh geez, I had like no idea. So it was pretty like last minute type thing. And then actually I ended up having a issue with my application. I was actually short a credit. I had no idea. I don't know how it happened. So, but he spotted it, and he pointed it out to me. And then luckily again, I got into, I had to do a summer school class just to get a credit.
Oh, okay.
And then,
but luckily they caught it. Eh?
Yeah. The high school didn't catch it. So I hear from my coach, like recruiting me.
So Eric, did you catch it, Eric?
No.
So you're blaming the school.
Yeah, because at that point I'm like,
because it's your life.
In
and
school,
the school should care about your life.
No, you're so routed through it. You're just a student. Like, how am I?
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
You're right. They should have caught it.
Yeah, I was. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was it?
I'm just making fun of your age.
Yeah.
I'm making fun of your age because I'm a jerk.
Yeah, that happened, and then luckily we were able to fix it, and then I got there the next year, so that was awesome. Yeah.
So they didn't catch it, but we were able to fix it.
Yes. Well,
I'm just kidding.
Take the credit. Take the credit.
Is this empty yet?
Oh, do you want some more? Oh, not if you're gonna throw it at me.
Is that how you guys know how long these go? Once the glass is empty.
Yeah,
that's it.
Once the ice is melted.
That's what it is. Yeah.
You don't even have water in here. It's just
It's just for sure. Thanks for ruining it, Eric.
Oh yeah, it's just a prop. Everyone who's watching.
I'm just a prop. Okay, Shane, I think we can wrap this up. I just, unless there's something that you would say, anything, do you have any advice for recruitment or anything that you would say about the overall philosophy? You could say it to coaches too, by the way. It's not just for parents.
I mean, I think realistically, the kids just need to reach to the coaches like I talked about. The coaches, there's so many kids playing. Don't rule anybody out too early. Things have changed, right? Like from the couple of years that I've been away from it, the athletes have changed, society has changed. Just be a hard worker, just come in and earn your spot, and parents just support your kids. Same thing. Parents just kind of you have the conversation with the coaches early, not to put any added pressure on your kid, and then kind of get out of the way and just support them. Let them decide what feels right. Let them decide where they want to go. Let it be their experience, not an experience for the parents. Right.
That's very wise words.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What are you thinking going forward? Like, you've done college now, and now you're coaching, your girl, and was it 13U? So, and that's obviously you're learning. Reflecting between the two. But what are you thinking going forward? Like with the sport, and maybe I don't know about your daughter's interest in the sport, or just as a coach.
Yeah, in life. Where are you going? Where am I going? What's your plan,
What's
mister?
my plan? I will be completely honest with you. I'm loving coaching again. Absolutely loving it. Like I mentioned at the opening, we're constantly, working with the relationship between my daughter and I as a coach and as a dad and as a player and as my daughter. So, hopefully I'll kind of be in that role for, maybe another year or so. At some point she's going to need someone else to coach her as well. Yeah. So hopefully I can give her a good solid base and get her to focus on the process. And then hopefully,
get her a good platform.
Good platform. She's got good hands.
Good base. Yeah.
She's got
good hands.
Oh, she's lefty.
Oh, does she? Oh, is she lefty?
Yeah, she's
okay.
lefty. So, and she's pretty smart.
And hopefully she'll be taller than you, right?
She keeps checking every day.
Eric's the heightest.
Yeah,
That's a whole. Have you guys done that episode yet?
We did the play. Yeah, we did the plight of the short player, plight of the tall player. Yeah, Shane's wearing as part of a program. He's sort of contributing to the problem.
It's funny.
No, but you know what? We did a plight of the tall player because tall players get ripped off in a whole different way, like we talked about before, where they're not being coached to their height. They're being treated like they can't pass, they can't do certain skills, and that's not going to help at the national team level or national programs or wherever. As players develop, they the confidence issue, right, among tall players who grow too early. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Shorter players or like average height
Get
players
condemned as a middle.
can be much more confident in life on the court than tall players. Have you noticed this in your life that the tall players tend to be?
When you brought it up, I think there is something to it. It's funny when you brought that up. Yeah.
So when I had the opportunity last summer to work with the Tall Maples program,
and that's a program in Canada and Ontario for taller athletes, or catching them earlier so you can coach them.
And the whole premise of the camp, it was 5 days, was biomechanics. How is your body moving? How should your body be moving biomechanically to help you, right? As a taller athlete who's grown but hasn't developed muscle mass and right? Tremendous athletes. And one thing that for me, at the end, we did player interviews for every kid when they left. And 90% of them said one of the best things about the camp was being with other tall athletes, right? Because again, they're centered out. They're centered out. They're the middle. And every kid in there except one.
Interesting.
One was a setter. One was being trained as a setter. She's so good. She's going to be amazing. The rest were middles. I think there was one left side. But again, right? But again, they're all over 6 feet. They're the tallest kids. Some of these kids were 13 years old.
Oh, so they're They're middles now.
Middles now.
Exactly. Yeah,
but what is their future hold?
Well, that's the problem with the program sort of catching that idea too, that some of these kids will need to learn how to pass because they're going to get liberoed out in a couple of years. Yeah. And they're not going to be able to develop the whole game. I mean, in the States, if you think about it, like with the defensive specialists coming in to serve now.
Correct.
So like middles now are basically
literally middle.
We talked about this in an episode. Like it's sort of off topic, but it's very important. I think like how much of as a backcourt player did you learn about what you should be doing in the front court by seeing failures?
100%.
So think of all the middles that were robbing of the opportunity to see, when my counterpart is late game. Like I'm telling you, like we are totally missing this as a game, as a sport, that we're taking the middles out of the backcourt and they are not seeing anything happening on defense at all.
Especially as
I know we have video and I know we can show them that, but there's nothing like being on the real court and suffering the consequence of a late blocker leaving you out to dry. Something like you don't know where to go because there's a seam and you know what I mean. So all of that stuff. So
the younger ages, the OVA, and I had to learn this, the fair play stuff, right? And the no libero until they're 15.
I coached in that too. Yeah.
So the fair play is the no subbing or
no subs.
Yeah.
Now I think we can make some adjustments.
Fair play is no. You do sub or wait.
No, there's no subs. There's no subs.
Everybody has to
play. Until the third set. Everyone has to play. If you didn't play the first set, you have to play the second set.
Right.
And you can't sub anyone out.
Okay. Right.
So if a kid is struggling, you're talking to them across the court. You can't take them out for a couple of points.
And the big bone of contention for a lot of coaches is that kid that misses practice, shows up late, doesn't work hard, and then they get equal playing time. That's where that tricky thing pops in. But it's rooted in something nice, and the idea that don't bench kids so you can win your gold medal.
Correct.
And that's what they're up against.
That's what they're up against because it still happens. You're still seeing
it would happen.
But is this just the result of coaches not subbing players?
It's from coaches trying to win gold medals and benching 12-year-olds. Yeah,
this is kind of like company policies or whatever. Like everyone's a good employee, and then you have the one person who ruins it, and then all of a sudden a policy is put in.
Or 80% in this case.
I mean, that's a negative way of looking at it, but like
in this case, it's most of the
so then
coaches would do that.
It's good that it's there.
It's good for the kids.
Yes. Yeah. Is that what you were going to say, Shane? That you changed your view on it, or you were saying?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about the triple ball. I wasn't sure about the
triple ball. I have a problem with.
I'm buying into it.
Yes.
Now again,
the only thing I had a problem with it. I'll just tell you. The only thing I had a problem with it was that if it's a free ball, why can't they face pass it?
So,
and I'm sure that's what you thought.
These are conversations that we have as well.
Because it's not supposed to replicate a serve. Even yell,
it's not. It's
even hit the ball, yell free balls. Why can't they face pass? And then we wonder why kids don't face pass.
Because then they'll get too good of an attack out of it.
But no kid, Shane, didn't you find this?
My kids pass dimes with their forearms.
Okay.
So we're getting an attack every time.
Yes.
The passing's not the problem. It's the footwork on the attack.
And my thing is the legacy of the problem is that's what, and you go into the college and post-secondary and very few kids face pass on serve receive.
Yes.
It carries through. And even in our area, they don't allow them to face pass till 16U?
I believe it's 16.
Yeah. 16 so they don't overhand pass until they're like 16U. So then you wonder why the time they're 17, they go to college or university and then they don't know how to face pass. Like even free balls. Like even at the highest levels of U.S. college and Canadian university, I still see 10-foot balls that are 15, 20 feet in the air, and the player still goes under and forearm pass. I'm like, why would they forearm pass that ball?
Right.
Mm.
Face pass is a dime every time, isn't it? It's just me.
Should be.
Like it's much easier.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
We have those discussions at coaches to go, if we were asked, what would our input be? You should be able to use your hands to pass that
On that triple ball.
That
toss.
triple ball.
Yep.
I think you should be able to maybe sub a kid for a couple points. It would put more emphasis on the refs to track it. But if you could sub a kid with the triple ball, the rally ball stuff, there's 3 balls before you rotate.
Mm-hmm.
If you could sub a kid, because you can only make a sub or timeout on a serve. So if you sub a kid who's struggling, now you're having a conversation one-on-one on the sideline. You're not yelling across the court, trying to get them to hear you, centering them out, right, for their mistakes or their continued same action, right, and then put them back in and let them try again, right? But again, that's where coaches would take someone out and they'd sit them.
Yeah, and I found this. I found this in teaching too. Like, I didn't know that there were so many. I don't want to say bad teachers, but I used to think that everybody was as rational and as logical and as fair as I was. And then once you become the head of an organization or you get a view from a different angle, you realize that no, you're rare. And most people will abuse those rules. So when if they did bring that rule in, the sane person, and this is why people you assume the best in everybody because you're projecting what you would do, and you think, of course, nobody would bench a 12-year-old girl or boy just so they could win, but they would, and that's where the organ. Like I've worked with the heads of Ontario Volleyball, and I know them well, and we've had these conversations where it's just like, it's tricky because you get vilified when you put in these policies, but when you look at the problems they're seeing at their organizational level, you would have no choice but to do it too. I'm sure there's a way that it can be tweaked, and
of course,
but
they're trying.
Yes, they are, and by nature of organization, like just from having run an organization that's been growing over the past few years myself, I know that the bigger you get, the harder it becomes to maintain. You eventually put in these. We've talked about this. You put in stupid blanket policies because you can't control everybody.
One or two, yeah.
So, and the further it gets away from the source, you just gotta take the good with the bad, and I guess mitigate damage for as many young players as possible. And if you piss off a few coaches, then you kind of have to. Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
they just adapt. We've played teams this year, 12 that are 12U, so these kids are 11. Right, and we've played a team that was older, 14U. They're literally trained. First pass comes up, and you see the kid turn sideways. It's coming back.
Yes,
they're just trying to score.
No way!
We lost. We lost to that. When I was coaching my daughter, we lost to that because we were doing system.
Right, we started to.
Yeah,
on the free ball toss.
On everything.
There's teams that just try to win points. So, I told on the beach.
Yeah, I know.
My daughter's playing beach, punch it over on one, and you're like, okay.
It's going to work sometimes.
I can be a little quick with my mouth once in a while, and we were playing this one team, and we called a timeout. It's coming back into, and we just had a quick chat. Okay, we've got to be ready. It's not going 3. We don't need to worry about blocking. It's coming back.
Balls, yeah.
Right? So we started picking that stuff up, and then we also got caught up in dumping it back on 2.
Yes, the retaliation.
Right. Yep. So I stand up. We do it. We get the point, and I let my team have it. I'm like, we are not playing like them. But of course, as I say it, the gym goes quiet. 3 courts, dead silence.
Oh, that's the best, of course.
A couple of parents came up after, and they're like, "Oh my God, we were looking for a
because
hole."
the universe said it needed to be said, and you were the vessel.
The universe silenced so the words could be spoken.
Yeah, not one of those great coaching moments, but at the same time, your athletes are putting in so much work, and they're playing the game the right way, right? Having respect for the sport, right?
Yeah.
Which does, for me, that's huge because I love the sport so much. To see them doing everything the right way and then starting to lose because people are just throwing balls. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just frustrating. So it got the better of me. But
no, I had the same moment. I had the same moment when I was coaching my daughter. Same thing, triple ball. I said, listen, we are learning for the long term. Like talking about process, going back to where we started. If they want to do this, in their case, they were doing the bump to 3, 3 sets 6, hits a on the ground roll shot into our pot.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, so we have to, this is an opportunity for us to learn how to read. Okay. So we still might want to stay up and block, or if we all peel, we can do that, but we're not leaving positions and we're not going to bump it over on one just so we can win. And just the idea, like they lost a set like that. And I think we ended up winning the match, but even if we didn't, I was just like, that team is losing in the long run.
Correct.
We are winning in the long run, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And then even my daughters, when they were playing beach, they were losing to a lot of teams that were bumping over on one. And I was like, okay, so there's a way to beat this without, losing your, because every rep I used to tell parents and coaches this all the time. Every time you applaud that, think of all the reps those kids are missing out on. They're not getting the pass,
setting,
the set,
no
the
attacking.
hitting.
Yeah.
And then you multiply that over the course of a season or 2 years, and think of all the reps gone. So I told my daughters when they were partners, like, you're going to keep doing 3 hits. I don't care if you lose or whatever, but can you mitigate this on the beach? Where can you hit it where they can't bump it over on one?
Right.
And that's where you start to, then they're rolling it deep and hitting it deep. And that's like, okay, great. See, that's how you do it. Because if you're still allowing, there comes a point where you can teach the team, if you're allowing them indoor or on the beach to, win points by doing things the wrong way, then there comes a point where it's on us.
Correct.
Right? If we're letting them do this to us, like, what can we do so they can't do those plays? So,
Well, and there's a point where you will eventually pass every free ball or, bump ball that they're giving you. Like,
did you say bump ball?
Bump ball.
Just kidding. You'll bump every ball or forearm pass every ball?
Yeah, well, you'll eventually, read the body language of the other player, and then you're going to see where you have an idea where the ball is going, and even if it's super deep or whatever, you're still going to get there. You're eventually, after it happens enough times, make a good pass and then smash it back at them. So, but it's just, I know you guys are talking about, it's that awkwardness when they're still learning the systems of defensive systems. Maybe a little hyper focus, and then on where they are on the court, they don't see the other player doing that. And then
they're too busy worried about where they are versus
and they get burned on the pot or the deep corner and stuff like that. But also let them get pissed off enough, and then they won't let it hit the court, right?
Yeah.
But
but it's as basic as just short-term thinking versus long-term thinking,
100%.
right? Because you can win a lot of things in the short term, in life, everything. You can succeed in the short term by stealing money, by cheating on the test. But you are not winning in the long run by taking in life. I'm convinced there's no such thing as a shortcut, and any shortcut is just robbing you of the ability to better yourself, better yourself. I was thinking about people like Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you guys, I know you know Tim Ferriss, but he always talks about shortcuts to learning things, shortcuts, life hacks. And I always think that life hack culture is what we live in right now. And I think this is part of what we're seeing with players and parents, where they want shortcuts, easy. Those never help us.
The gratification, right? The instant gratification.
And there's no focus on process.
There's no
So if somebody like Tim Ferriss talks about learning a language in 4 hours, I'm like, well, no, but learning a language, the beauty of it is the struggle and understanding. And do you just want to memorize words, or do you want to understand context and meaning? And it's irrelevant almost what you're learning. It's the process of the learning that
like
your
you said,
brain.
the understanding. You have to understand something to actually learn it.
Yes, understand it. Yeah, and the process, right? Like, it's not like if you're, they talk about cursive writing. I remember in schools that's a big thing where a lot of people are like, why don't they teach cursive writing? And a lot of teachers answer, and school boards are like, well, they don't need cursive writing. It doesn't matter if they need it. What they need is process, the understanding of this is going to be long, this is going to be hard, this is going to be complicated, this is going to be frustrating. And that's all they learn. That's what they're learning. They're not learning the letters. Right. They're learning the process. And that's what's missing in our society, I think, is that people aren't understanding process. And that's why you get those teams that are just like, here, let's get a point easy. Let's get we won gold. But they did it with like a total of 0
times.
Sets on the day. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, yeah. But I think we should wrap this up with some questions for Shane. We don't want to keep him here all night. His time's more valuable than ours. We'll let Shane leave, and then Eric and I can ramble on.
So my kids still upstairs.
No, so Shane, we're going to ask you 5 quick form questions, just so that we have to wake up the people that are still listening. Here's one. Okay, so what is your favorite memory from volleyball? Your volleyball life. What's one of your favorite memories from volleyball life?
My favorite,
or stories, or whatever.
Honestly, happened last year.
Really?
COVID ended. No, it didn't end. Sorry, everyone.
It never ends.
It never ends. Last year, we had an opportunity to go to provincial championships, OVA provincial championships. I got to walk into the Intercare Center in Mississauga with my daughter.
Oh, that's cool.
That takes the cake. I mean, we've won medals at the OCAA level. We've won medals at national championships with club teams. I've had some great athletes who are like family now, but I literally got to experience something that I love with my kid.
Did you cry?
I'm almost crying right now.
So
I had complete goosebumps. I gave her a quick hug, and then we just went to business.
So like, you think that was a better moment for you than when we played that Pepsi tournament at Wasaga Beach?
100%. I still have nightmares about wind. wind and rocks.
Shane was my beach
But then
partner for
we were beating the best team.
We were beating
and
the
he cut
best
his
team
foot.
there.
Roland, wasn't it? Wasn't that
was
Roland? You watching?
Roland. Yeah, Roland. We gave them the win because we were nice.
Because we weren't going anywhere.
Because it was a hurricane
It was
all
a
morning.
hurricane.
It
It
was
was
a
so
hurricane.
bad.
Oh my God, worst tournament ever.
Yeah, we didn't do well.
Shane and I played beach for a lot of years, so I'm pretty sure his daughter's memory would be second because you were getting teary-eyed when we walked up on the beach
As
together.
anchor.
Remember, you were holding my hand.
It's so windy.
It was
The
anchor.
tears are like. Oh
And
my
I may
gosh.
have farted. I don't know. Maybe it was making your eyes
was I
water.
downwind the whole time?
All right, that's a good one. I think that's, we'll go with that, I guess.
You can edit it later.
Yeah, we'll edit
You
it.
can change that later.
Let's see. So, what about? Can you think of like the most important coach you ever had in your life and why? You can name names, or was there something about a coach you had in your life that was? Again, you don't have to say me.
You didn't coach me.
Well,
Or
Wow,
even,
we were trying.
I advised.
You advised.
or even someone who influenced your coaching or something.
You
Yeah,
know
there's
what?
a good one. Yeah.
I've worked with some good coaches in Alberta, in Ontario, in the club system. I think the one that made the greatest impact on me was Stan Marchant. When I was a young coach, complete ego, right? That's what it was about for many years. And talking with Stan when I got to work with him at Durham College, I'll never forget this. I've told people this. He said to me, he says, if they know you care about them, they will do anything you ask. And that changed me as a coach the first time, right?
That's great.
I started to settle in a little bit, listen more, understand that I can't blame the athletes for my shortcomings as a coach, right? If I want them to do better, then I have to be better, right?
Yep.
So, and build that culture where, if you have to challenge an athlete, they'll respond because they respect you, not just because you're in a position that they're supposed to.
Right.
Huge difference.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the power just because I said so versus
Exactly.
because I care about you, or because I'm asking for what's best for you, kind of thing.
Right. Can
That's
we
cool.
put the team? Can we put your development ahead of me as the coach? Right. Like,
That's cool. Yeah. Stan was great. I didn't know him as well as you, but I did talk to him a lot, and just perspective, and he was laid back. That's I just remember.
That's it, right?
And it's funny. That's what time gives you, right? Wisdom gives you perspective, and Stan just was. He knew that this point was not the end of the world. This tournament was not the end. This season is not the end of the world, and that's why I think people loved him because he's a legendary coach in our area, winningest coach in Durham College.
I think so. Yeah.
History and.
He's got some crazy awards up in the Hall of Fame there.
Yeah,
as he should.
Yeah. And you're lucky because you got to assist with him, right?
I know.
And at the end of his career, and that's gold, eh?
I won't forget it.
true.
We were at Georgian College at provincials, and it was our last match. We were playing for 5th, and he came in and he said you take this match. You sign the score sheet. I said, well, now why am I going to do that? He said, because you're going to be taking over the team.
Wow, is that how he told you?
Yeah.
Oh, what a great story.
And I was like, what's happening? Right? But yeah, I was very lucky to work with Stan.
Yeah, he is a great
sure.
guy.
Yeah.
We were coaching the Durham College camps, and when Stan was around, and I worked with his sons, and great guys too.
Yeah, Mike, right?
Yeah, Mike and
you never know what a hand he's gonna hit.
Peter.
with.
Pete, yeah.
Mike,
So I haven't seen Peter in a long time.
I haven't either.
Funny guy. Okay, that's a great one. He's making our answers look really bad from last episode.
Yeah,
especially yours.
Especially mine.
No.
Especially mine.
Mine too. Ours were so shallow. Okay, so
I told you, I've changed and matured.
you're like a little butterfly. Okay, what about your worst memory in the sport?
Worst memory in the sport?
Yeah.
I was coaching at Dermatac U19 team.
No names, please.
No names. Dermatac U19 team,
Mhm.
and we were at provincials. And back when my ego would get in the way, and I remember the kids were playing hard, and we weren't winning, and I just yelled, and it was embarrassing for them. It was embarrassing for me. It was awful.
Really?
It was absolutely.
It must have
awful.
It must have been really bad. This kid's
It was the whole gym. U of T Scarborough.
Oh, okay. And
was
sorry, what age
absurd.
group?
They were. Remember the OAC?
Yeah.
They used to have.
So
it was the last year U19.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was. I look back now and I'm embarrassed to even admit that was me.
Really?
Yes.
You
Okay,
remember,
that's
you remember
good.
it clearly.
Very big
I
of you.
remember it very clearly.
Yeah.
It was just a joke. Just absolutely embarrassing for
Yeah.
those kids.
It's tough. In fairness, for coaches that just come out of playing, and if you go into serious coaching, you do have a hard time. And again, that's where that good players have a hard time coaching thing comes in, where like just do like it's so easy to do this, right? And you have to remember that it's it's these are kids. They don't have your life experience. Even the gap from 18 to 22, right? Huge
They're
years.
just figuring out who they are.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. But yeah, our ego, the younger you are, but like you've had a great, explanation of how you've been able to drop that. And I think it comes because you've played. So it's weird how the playing at that stage can be a hindrance. I think it can make a coach very uptight when they're young. But I think the playing also, because if you play a lot over your career, you diminish the significance of each point.
Well,
versus those coaches who haven't played, they still are living through something here. You know what I mean? It's them that's going to win this gold. It's them that's going to, whereas I think because we played a lot, and you have Eric too, like you understand the process because you've seen how many points you've played. Do you know what I mean?
And what it takes to actually win.
Yeah.
Like you could play your best and still lose.
Yes.
There's always I coached with a young lady my first year at Seneca, and we got put out in the quarterfinals. And it was first year wanting to do really well, thought we had an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, "Well, there's only ever one winner." Right?
That's where we were going with
There's
it. Yeah.
only ever one. And you know how good and a little bit of luck comes in there to be that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that, right? And it's, if you listen to, like I said, I love listening to other coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're willing to get out of the way and listen, I was like, yeah, you're right. There's only one winner.
Yeah, we've talked about that fairly recently.
Yeah.
And that's something that it sort of ties in with this whole recruiting idea too, right? There's so many, and this is a good thing for coaches to understand. This is why you coach people, not players, right? Because so few of them are going to go to the next level.
Yes.
And then the level beyond that.
Yeah.
The bulk of these players are just going to be people going into their lives.
Correct.
So what are you who are you coaching for? The one kid out of 100 who might go to the next level, or the one out of 1,000,000 who are going on the level beyond that? Or are you coaching the other 999,000 who are just going into their lives?
Correct.
You are coaching people for life. Yeah. You're not coaching them for pro or even varsity. You're making people here. And you know what? When you coach for people, like you said, the great ones are getting better prepared anyway.
Correct.
For that next level,
They
more than if they're all being coached like they're going to the Olympics. So that's a great, I love that. That's a great reminder that there's only one winner.
There's only ever one.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about back at Durham Attack there, it and Zuby's connection to players becoming coaches, it seemed like it was just an outburst of passion of the game, is because, like you're saying, you understand what it takes and the hard work, and you've been working with those athletes and you know what they're capable of, but it's just not flowing in that moment or whatever. Like, again, maybe partly your influence, or the kids just aren't jamming at that moment, and then the win isn't happening, and so you just kind of like
Just lost it.
yeah, right. And
It was
and
so
like
bad.
but that's what I mean, is that maybe because, and you were a young coach as well at that time,
I was, yeah.
and so you know that you have that passion for the game, and that's kind of where it came from, and now and that's why I asked you, is like, do you remember that moment clearly? And you're like,
Very.
right. And again, you remember it so clearly because of your player roots and how and also of how embarrassing it was, but you still are passionate for the game, even whether you're playing it or coaching it, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
now coming forward, going through all those college years, and now back to coaching U13, right? You still remember it, and it's changed you, right? It's changed
100%.
ever since then, and even still now, you still remember it, so you're still basic. So yeah, I'm just kind of like seeing the connection between like the player in you who's now the coach, right? Because we talked about it. It helps. Well,
The bad things help.
yeah, and being a player, like having experience playing the sport, right? Like that's just you being super passionate.
Well, ego driven, right? Ego driven. Like
It was ego.
he was attaching the result to.
How
And I've
people
been there.
viewed me.
I've been there too. Yeah,
Yep.
screaming as a coach. I look back at and I can remember specific moments too where I was like screaming at a team, and I'm like looking back, going, "What the?
What was I doing?
That's just me being an insecure piece of crap."
Yep.
Yeah. Notice how I didn't swear.
Nice.
I think that was
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
He pre-planned it.
I did. I was seeing there. Just say crap. Just say crap. Here's another one, Shane. So if you had to pick as a player, and you can only pick one,
Okay.
would you pick beach or indoor for the rest of your life?
Beach.
Yeah, that's what we all say, right?
Beach.
I like this.
Yeah,
We're always
why-
gonna ask this question.
We all,
I
yeah.
like it.
Why?
As a player, you said.
as a
right?
player,
As a
yes.
player, beach.
Why?
The game itself, I like the challenge of just like you talked about earlier, right, Eric, about it's you and your partner. There's no coach from the sideline. You have to be cerebral. You have to think the game. You have to work with your teammate. You have to make corrections. You have to be supportive, right? At some point, one or you is going to let the other one down. How are you going to handle that? The atmosphere, the sun, the sand, the culture, beach all day.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, that's what we
That's
keep
awesome.
coming to. Yeah, and can you believe that there are coaches out there who tell their players not to play beach because they think it's bad habits? They think it's the skateboarding of.
I still
surfing.
can't because I haven't seen it myself, but I know it's true. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had coaches recently say to me they don't like their kids playing beach, and I'm like, "Did you ever play beach?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "That's why."
That's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
If you played beach,
Yeah.
you'd know that the beach players are always the strongest ones when they come
Number of
in.
contacts you
Yes.
get, just being able to change your game. just
Reps.
Reps.
Reps, hard work on your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a question. How many players that you've coached do you think, like percentage wise,
Okay.
have gone on to play high level, like gone to play pro or
oh gosh.
really like
I don't know if anyone
back.
has.
It's hard to keep track of. Yeah. Yeah. It could be zero.
It could be. I think the one kid that probably could have, but she was injured when she came back, was Leah Sarr. She was dynamic. She played junior national, if I'm not mistaken, but that was before I coached her. I got lucky that she came to Durham for a year and had an opportunity to coach her. When 1 year I coached a club team U15, we had a couple kids that were at the junior national ID camp but didn't get selected. Yeah, I don't think no one's that I can think of has pursued pro or,
Yeah.
Interesting. That sums
Yeah,
up the
just-
point pretty nicely,
well,
doesn't it?
it does though, right? Because
Yeah.
if you look at the number of kids that I've coached and then look at the opportunities and right, who's taking it, select few,
Yeah.
Right. And so all those kids that you were screaming at those years ago, just you're
wasted.
setting them up for failure.
Right? That's right. I killed their confidence. For God's sakes.
All right, Shane, this is the last one. Okay,
Sure.
here we go.
Tough one.
If you could pick a song that summarized your entire life in volleyball, coaching, playing,
my
maybe your
gosh.
philosophy. If you could pick one
Not
song,
easy, right?
it's not easy. But
Yeah.
if you could
Not
pick
easy. I
one
wasn't
song
ready for this
that would
question
sum
last time.
sum up your career in volleyball, we're going to end on this one. So I'm going to let you take your time. You can hum. You can check with your Spotify.
I might need to check my Spotify. Shout out to Spotify.
Is it Climb Every Mountain? Is it I'm Every Woman?
Oh man,
One song.
one song.
We'll tell you what. You can put that in the back of your mind if you want,
Okay.
and I could ask you another one because I think it's
This
important
is
to
a
ask.
tough one.
When we have good coaches on the show, I want to ask this. What would you say is if you could put like a billboard or something like a fortune cookie message or a philosophy, like a nice little catchphrase that sums up your philosophy to the game, your approach to the game now as an evolved mammal human?
As an evolved mammal. My billboard.
What would
These are
be
tough
what would be
questions.
your message?
Yeah.
What would be your
Yeah.
mantra? What would be if you could leave one thing for the generations to come in volleyball, a message that sums up your philosophy? Could be a word, could be a sentence.
every practice plan now that I do, right? We've got 6 or 8 or 10 different drill sections. Every single practice, the first thing I write in there is build them up. Every single practice, right? That's our responsibility as coaches. I've noticed in 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds, self-confidence issues, body image issues, right? The ability to handle stress, to handle pressure. And I think as coaches and being in that position, we have a responsibility to build them up.
That's a good one.
Right? What they're doing is they're a select few. Like, yes, our club right now, we've got 200 kids. That's great. But they're a select few on our 13U first team, right? So what they're doing in itself by being there and being selected to be there, because those 12 were picked out of 70 kids as the top, right? Recognize that. That's a big step in itself.
Yep.
Right? And we put pressure on them in practice. We have expectations for them. They handle it every single time.
Nice.
They're never unsuccessful leaving practice. So we need to make sure we build them up.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Build them up. That's a good one for coaches. It's good for teammates.
I think so.
It's good for everybody, parents.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, you've dodged it long enough. So
I don't know the name of the song.
and we're not holding you to this, Shane, by the way. We're not going to play this. We're not going to.
No, it's not as I walk out.
No,
camera's not going to
this
pan.
isn't going to be.
Do you want me to
this
search?
song
Do you want
in
me
the
to
back.
search something for you?
I think it's Nas. I think it's Hate Me Now.
Hate Me Now.
Yep.
So that's your.
It's my
song.
anthem.
Oh, as a player or as a coach?
Yeah.
As a player, 100%.
As a player.
I'm totally
Hate
different
me
player
now.
than I am
Hate me,
coach.
yeah.
Hate Me Now.
Yeah.
So
So
like
the-
that's like the.
the point of the song is like
you're not gonna like me.
The point of the song is I'm gonna do me, and you can like me or not like me. I don't
Gotcha.
care.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be myself. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
you would like Nas.
I love
I'm
Nas.
surprised
I don't know who
Oh.
Nas is. I know who Nas
know who
is.
Nas
Okay,
is.
okay.
Yes. What do you act like? I
I
don't know.
don't know.
You would like him.
I feel like that should have been a country song or something. That's an older one. Too.
Yeah. No.
It is.
No, that's a good one because it implies that you're gonna be yourself as a player. That's good. And that you're not going to worry about what the other team is doing, right?
Right. I think it kind of applies as a coach a little bit too, because, again, like I talked about, I'm constantly evaluating. Having the opportunity to work with Team Ontario has changed kind of some of the way I look at stuff and the way the athletes do some stuff.
Nice.
Constantly having conversations with other coaches within our club, trying to say, hey, like let's try to do some things consistently. Let's try and do some things together.
Some coaches don't like that.
We don't have an opportunity to always even get together, right? Not that they don't like it. I just think it's a different mindset, right? So a lot of coaches, they do what they know, and they want to stay comfortable doing what they know. It works for some coaches, which is great. That's fantastic, as long as your athletes are learning and you're having some success and the kids are doing well. But I think I just think we can build something bigger.
Collaborate.
Collaborate.
Yeah, it's kind of a lone. Again, it gets to why do people go into coaching? Some of them go into it to be the boss.
Correct.
And that's interesting and that's cool as long as you're
Delivering.
and have you earned the boss title, right? Like I think it's an easy title to gain. This, especially in youth coaching, you can become a boss fairly easily, versus other areas of life where it's harder to become a boss.
Correct.
And you
have to prove you know something.
You have to prove you know
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
Well, that's the
and
thing
earn
we talk about here is you have to be able to answer the why. right?
Mm.
Always. I
Yeah.
always give my
Huge.
same thing. I tell my kids, my 12-year-olds, if we're telling you to do something, there's a why attached to it.
Mhm.
And if we don't, then you better ask.
Yeah.
Right?
Or, yeah.
It's a good parenting tip, good coach tip. If
Should
there's no
always be
why,
a why.
like I said earlier, if the answer is because I said so, then that's
Mm.
or like if the results don't back up your theory, then
Then
time
change
to
it.
change the theory. Yeah.
Change it.
All right, Shane. Well, this was great.
this was awesome,
what
man.
what do you think is next for you? You just coaching. You're gonna coach club. Are you thinking about? Have you ever thought of the idea of going back into varsity, or do you love where you are now?
I absolutely love where I am right
Yeah.
now. I do this 13U team. I also do our learn to play stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love working with the kids.
The youth. Yep.
I think I would like an opportunity at some point to maybe be an assistant coach to somebody where I'm not doing all the thinking. I'm not doing all
In
the
club,
planning.
in the youth, in
Yeah,
youth. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, and then just come and grab that kid who's having trouble with their passing and fix their hands or fix their platform or their feet or whatever it may be, right? Their vision, right? And just do some one-on-one
And
stuff.
to see
So
it's fun to see kids get it, eh?
there's
Light bulbs. And
as soon as you cheer them on, right? Even in our learn to play stuff, we got 50 kids in the gym, and you're overseeing it, and the kids are doing drills, and you learn a kid's name and you holler across the court, great job, and they just light up.
Yep.
And then the next 5 balls, they're successful again, right? So
there's proof right there.
it's just proof right there that the mindset, right, can just help these kids. So I like that. I mean, my ego is going to get in the way a little bit. I want to make sure that my kid's learning and progressing. If that's what she chooses, we ask her every year if she still wants to play. As long as she says yes, then she'll play.
It'll be interesting to watch you not coach them, because that's
true.
That's the tricky. That's whenever we hear from a parent who played and they try to sit back, that's the tough thing.
I think it can be, right?
Yeah.
Especially if, as the parent sitting back, you have something to offer. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Or if the message is
different,
way off, and it's going to be there for a year.
That's where the consistency.
I got to talk into coaching every year with your daughter, because at least assisting. That's what a lot of parents end up doing, sadly. But no, awesome, Shane. I mean, it was great stuff, and always great talking with you. We played together for a lot of years, so it's fun, and we coached together, so it's kind of fun
right?
It's kind of fun to have you here on this first episode where we have a guest. So
listen, this is. I was a little nervous. I'm thinking, okay, let's go do this. But this is awesome.
It's just a conversation.
Love talking about volleyball.
Yeah. Right? Well, it was awesome having you. And honestly, I think our parents, listening, coaches and players, I think they learned a lot. You're a very wise guy, and I don't mean that sarcastically or in a mobster sense. You're a wise person, and I can tell the growth. And I saw you when you were a young idiot, and to see you.
Yes. We should have those people on. Have those members of that U19 team.
No, I'm just kidding. No, we all were. That's the whole idea, is that we're young, and we should look back. If you look back at your younger self and see a lot of mistakes, that's a good sign, right? The last thing you want to look back on your life when you're 70 now?
36.
Both lies. No, to look back on you better see a lot of mistakes, otherwise you haven't grown, right? So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks, guys. What you guys are doing here is awesome, and happy to come out and be a part of it for one evening.
I'm sure you'll be back. So thanks again, Shane. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
You too. Thanks. Eric, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say thanks for everyone listening, but I was like, no one's listening, so
have some confidence.
It's gonna get a ton of views.
Yeah.
I just did our Instagram posted me jumping on our AccuSpike at practice, and our assistant coach who runs it keeps sending it to us. Keeps sending me. It's like 20,000 views of me hitting on an AccuSpike, and there's like 10 or 1,000 likes, and I'm like, I just look at it and go, oh my God, I'm out of shape, and I'm barely getting the ball. And then
does the shirt come up?
The shirt comes up.
Oh, no.
I'm like, and everyone's watching this. I'm like, this is amazing. Thank you guys for supporting me when I'm jumping.
But if they could only have seen you 25 years ago.
Awesome.
Well, listen, the AccuSpike is still at 9.93, so I'm still getting up there.
Still
I had to
getting
slow it down to see my head above the net and me reaching for the ball.
I want to see the video of the next morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sciatica.
Yeah, exactly. So
What's the big idea?